And action. Welcome to episode 13 of the Action Podcast. And today we have a special treat for you as we have reviewed the film Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which came out in 1986. This was written and directed by the famous John Hughes, the auteur of teen movies. And with me today, I have, of course, my brother, Peter Escarcega, who is wearing a bad replication of a Ferris Bueller costume.
It's an awful Ferris Bueller. I mean, this is the only beret I had, and it's bad. Yeah. But at least they tried.
Yeah, and you're probably going to get a minus point for how bad it is. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes. To my bottom left, we have Dominique Francisco, who was the winner last time that we had this podcast with these guys. And then we also have Rose. And I'm going to mispronounce your name again, Rose. So we're just going to call you Rose. So
yeah, just go with
Charur.
Yeah, let me say,
go with that one.
Very close.
And it's like that, but
I'm also getting a minus point for not being able to pronounce one of my guest names. So
honestly, that all comes with the pre-interview process. You get the name.
Oh, I know the second part. Rose, Arias, Charur.
There you go.
Oh, okay,
Right.
okay. And I usually need to see it. Like obviously, like when I see it in front of me, it's a lot easier to pronounce. But
you got your point back.
Yeah, I got my point back.
Let me just say, it's great to have the ladies back. Jurassic Park was incredible. That was a great show. You guys did amazing, and I'm thrilled that you're back. I can't wait to talk about this film and get your point of view on it.
Yeah, so
I'm happy to be here. That's for certain. Although I really thought we were going to be here for Back to the Future, but
yeah, we had a little scheduling.
Politics, man.
Yeah, politics. Powers that
all
be.
good. I'm equally excited to talk about Ferris.
Awesome.
this is the first time that I watched it.
Yeah, so that's what I was just about to say. So Peter obviously has seen this a million times, as myself. I mean, this was definitely one of the VHS tapes that we had.
Yep.
Also on TV, which we'll talk about some of the differences between the TV version and this version, because I actually grew up on the TV version and didn't know half the lines that were in the movie till I was like 12 years old. And then obviously Dominique also kind of grew up watching this film. But Rose, the special thing about Rose is, her being a millennial, she wasn't even born when this movie came out. And so this was the first time that she's seen this movie. So we're going to hear a perspective of not just a filmmaker, but also a millennial that has never seen this film before. And so we're going to see what actually holds up and what we think is funny versus what Rose may or may not find fuzzy. So I'm super excited to hear Rose's point of view today. So with that being said, we'll go into our first kind of segment of why we're watching this film. And like I mentioned it, for me, this was growing up. This was probably my favorite comedy growing up, like one of the first ones. There's some other ones that would join the list very quickly, but this was definitely easily like a top 5 comedy for me growing up. And I don't know if I definitely didn't see this when it came out. Like I said before, I saw this probably on TV version because I was young. I was definitely under 10 years old, and having older brothers, I got to be able to watch it with them. But yeah, I always got to see the TV version and the edited version. But for me, it was super funny, and the casting of Matthew Broderick was just a brilliant stroke of genius by John Hughes. And I definitely didn't know who John Hughes was at that time, but by the time Home Alone came out in 1990, I definitely knew who this guy was, and can tell that this guy is pretty much one of the greatest directors of our generation, if not the greatest comedy director of all time. I mean, you could put him up there with Billy Wilder, and that dude for comedies. I mean, that's pretty much it. Maybe a Laurel and Hardy or Charlie Chaplin. But John Hughes is probably arguably the greatest comedic director of all time when you put his movies against anybody else's. And so that's a big reason why we're watching this. And then
he was an innovator when it came to those sort of teen high school kind of films. I mean, there were high school movies in the past, like a Grease and movies like that, but John Hughes had a formula, and he just kept pumping out film after film after film, and then even evolved into something like a Home Alone, which didn't have to do with teens, it had to do with a little kid. But he's he was an innovator when it came to a specific genre that hadn't been exploited yet. He was incredible.
Yeah, and when you just even just doing the research on this film, when you just see the list of movies that came out within a 10-year period, it started with Mr. Mom, National Lampoon's Vacation, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, European Vacation, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, Uncle Buck, Christmas Vacation, and then Home Alone. I mean, nobody had that kind of streak ever. I mean, there's a couple other films in there that were still pretty good, but those were just that's like 80% of his films,
and they still hold up after all of these years. Was that like 30 years ago?
Yeah. At least, I mean,
Wish
35
I
years
know, right?
I
I'm
wish
like,
it was only 30 years ago.
and then lastly, and I'll go to Pete here next, but and the other part, obviously, where kind of invented a new kind of film technique was really the breaking of the fourth wall. I mean, I don't know if this was the very first time this was used, but this definitely was the most successful used way to do it, and has been copied time and time again moving forward. Now it's like a regular technique that filmmakers use, but at that time no one had really done it so effectively and so funny, and definitely just again changed the game with that. And so Pete, what were your reasons why you love this film so much?
Yeah, well, I was 9 when it came out, and certainly, like you said, we grew up on my first exposure to it was on the TV version, so it was highly edited, especially the language. But then, a couple of years
a lump
later,
of coal in his fist.
In 2
weeks, he had a diamond.
Or even when Ferris is talking about Cameron's car, about it being a piece of shit, it was a piece of tin.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's not a piece of tin, But this movie was great because, like you said, Paul, it was the first time I'd seen this sort of talking to the camera ever. And I have no idea in terms of history whether it's actually happened before that, but it really just kind of changed the way a movie was presented to me at that age. But it was funny. Every single scene had comedic value and really felt well thought out. The actors that were in it, each one of them, I related to on some level and laughed. And their performances for those characters were so spot on. Even people like Rooney and Rooney's secretary, and even the nurse, who has to break the news to Sloane.
Yeah.
Each character was so specific and had such an important role. Even the parents. The parents were so naive, it was comical. Like,
yeah,
even how funny that I'm going to take these off. This is ridiculous. It's just so. It was the first. I've said it before on many podcasts about a movie where this is the most quoted movie in my life, but this movie literally was. I quoted every movie. Every scene, every line, almost in every situation from this film. It was.
Yeah.
This was a game changer for me, and it really kind of set the bar really high for comedies, and it was just incredible. Great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominique, what are your thoughts?
Kind of the same. I was your age, Paul, about 6 years old, and I don't ever, how can I say this? I never not remember watching it. Like, I don't
Right.
remember the first time I saw it because I've seen it so many times, and it's just part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you guys were saying, when he's talking to the camera, I remember being a kid, that was the first time. It was like, oh my God, he's talking to me. And as a matter of fact, when I was rewatching it the other night, my little boy comes in and he's like, Mommy, is he talking to you? Because I guess he's obviously not seen a movie where they've done that.
Ferris like this.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. But yeah, all of the characters are just fantastic. Like, even as good as Ben Stein is the classic Bueller, the English teacher after is even funnier to me. The one that's in, Sloane's class.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. But
that's the thing about John Hughes, is that he had the ability to encapsulate administrators, teachers, and really kind of grab the essence of how a kid really views these people. Like,
totally.
At school. We were lucky to have great teachers at Monrovia, but there were some bad ones too. And
sure.
Yeah, they really sort of amplified like the negative aspects of these teachers.
Yeah, like
Yes.
even when Jeannie addresses Edie McClure,
Yeah.
Grace,
Mhm.
Nice attitude.
yeah, nice attitude, you know, and she's just an absolute bitch to her. And then even after, she's like, what an asshole.
Yeah. What a little asshole.
What a little asshole.
Because you know that's what they were saying about us, right?
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course.
Yeah.
Just
So
we
and
were.
I love and adore this movie. It's hands down my favorite. I love all of the quotes. I could say them all day long. I mean, it never gets old. Even again, watching it for the millionth and 10th time the other day, it was like I watch it every time with new eyes, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so guys, this is the big
I
moment.
can't wait.
Come on, Rose.
Big moment.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm scared or not. Maybe slightly nervous, but yeah, Rose, what are your first impressions of watching Ferris Bueller for the first time?
First impressions. I tend to watch movies now and take them in and entertain myself before I try to criticize them or learn from them, because once you're a filmmaker,
Yeah,
like, it's the worst. So now my approach is different. I watch them, I enjoy them, and then I critique. But I
Same.
actually I love the movies from that time, and it's so different from when I went to school and where I went to school, because school here in the United States is so much different than in Guatemala. So
Yeah.
being brought to that culture, and even going back time in the 80s, because I'm really drawn to the 80s. That's why I think I love
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Like the music and the art, the simplistic. But there's a lot in the movie, but it's simple and lightheaded. So I love that they entertain you, and the problems, they're not that big problems, the ones that they show you now, that is like the drugs and it is as simple as putting a scene with Charlie Sheen that you can see there, and it's just there. and it shows you, but it's lightheaded, and it goes and flows, and shows how simple also life was back in time, because I think it's getting a little bit more complicated. So even movies, and this movie shows that simplicity, and that's why I love it, because it's a movie that you can entertain yourself, and that's why you can laugh about it, because it's kind of like Friends. You just sit down to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, no. And the comedies nowadays, I think they're following an agenda. So I think they miss the comedy itself, and they don't comedy for the sake of comedy, but they have to follow an agenda that it's out there. So I think this is pure, and it was the beginning. And the fourth wall also, like, that helps so much in the comedies, and the timing. When you break the fourth wall, you need a good actor, and the great timing of all. And I think I don't know the guys.
Matthew Broderick.
He had an amazing, like, the one from Back to the Future.
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. They replaced the other one for Michael J. Fox because of the timing, and I think this character, that timing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
And John Hughes, like, specifically when he wrote this, and apparently he wrote this like in 3 days, or he wrote like basically a majority of the script in 3 days.
Crazy.
But he had Matthew Broderick in mind when he wrote this, and he ended up saying it later, like, Matthew Broderick was the only guy that can kind of run this fine line of rebellion but still be charming, because you know, like kind of Dominique was saying a minute ago, like, you know, especially administrators and other people are just going to think you're a dick the whole time, you know, and the way you do certain things. But even you know, like when he's kind of an asshole to Cameron, you know, he kind of charms him and is like, you know, I'm sorry, and he's kind of like, you know, whimpering a little bit, and it's, you know, it's such a kind of a weird thing for your, you know, you're supposed to be your strong protagonist to kind of like, you know, kind of bow down to the secondary character, the one that's, you know, quote unquote the weaker character. But it just goes to show you just again how the kind of the charm that Matthew Broderick have, and you know, he was definitely identified as Ferris Bueller for a while, but you know, he was such a great theater actor before this, and he did War Games, and so he wasn't a nobody for sure, but he hadn't done anything really like this before. And
not like that, yeah. But it's so crazy how John Hughes especially, had this ability to show somebody in the movie who's actually right. Like Rooney he's actually correct. Like, you're not supposed to be ditching school. He's actually in the right. But
to an extent, he's right. Not
to an
fully
extent,
right.
but you've made him into this villainous character that you end up just rooting against, and you're actually rooting for this other character who's just amazing. And
Yeah.
To Rose's point about the way the 80s were portrayed back then, I don't remember what it was like to be an adult in the 80s, but certainly as a kid, I mean, you just didn't have any worries at all. Like, literally in junior high and high school, your biggest worry was like, am I going to go to this dance with this girl? I don't know. I wasn't around a lot of drugs and drinking and stuff like that. And or at least it wasn't like elevated.
Yeah.
But it was, am I going to make the basketball team? Like,
Right.
is that was like the extent of it. There wasn't like all of this pressure that that kids have like nowadays. It really was a lighter time.
Very simplistic. I agree. So simplistic. And that's what makes me so nostalgic, because of all the troubles in, the world today. And then, like, when you think about it in the movie, obviously there were no cell phones, no, really complex computers. And so it was neat to see at the time in the movie how, he changed the number of his absences through the computer, or, because it was like, wait, what? That was so new to us.
Yeah.
Or how they prank called and he was Sloane's dad on one line, and then, he called into Rooney on the other, right?
Two lines with like having two lines meant that you were like rich.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So like to be able to do those things was just like, wow,
And Rose, by the way, when Ferris was talking to those high school kids, they were on, it was called a payphone. Yeah. You actually had to like put money into it, and then you would call somebody. That was
different technology.
Have those back in the day.
Right.
Well, and I want to go back to Rose's point as well, and because I think it ultimately goes to the greater themes of this film. And so, we talked about simplicity and kind of like not getting in our own head, and I do think that's one of the issues that people deal with in general today is that inability to simplify things. Because if you even go to the scene with Peter, that was Charlie Sheen's philosophical point. It's like, well, maybe you're the problem. Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, it's not someone else's fault. It's like, you're the fault. Like, stop blaming him. Stop worrying about him. What does it matter what he does? Like, you should just be focused on yourself. And that is like one of the greatest life lessons I think anybody can really take away. It's like, yeah, dude, just worry about yourself. And it's not gonna be that much, you're gonna really simplify things. And, Ferris,
a better place for sure.
Ferris, and I have a bigger point at the end that it kind of blew my mind that I've never caught until I did some of the research on this. But, kind of the same thing with Cameron, again, it just goes really to a simple thing of, bro, you got to face your fears. You got to stand up, and that's where your happiness is going to lie. Like they talk about in the film, like, oh, he's happier when he's sick and all this stuff. And, he's a character that doesn't know how to find happiness, but really the happiness is empowering himself to just like, no, dude, put your foot down. And that's where the happiness is. And you can see, obviously, he had a nice character arc by the end. And Ferris Bueller's is just the embodiment of simplification, because he's just like, you know what? Today's a perfect day. Like, why should I go to the place I hate the most, which is high school? Why don't I go enjoy this and just have that day and just, seize the day type of mentality. And
Ferris Bueller is the originator of YOLO.
Yeah, exactly. And through that, he changes a lot of different people's lives, and unfortunately he actually doesn't solve his own issues.
I was going to say that, like, because Cameron has a clear arc.
Yeah.
What was Ferris's arc in this whole thing? I've seen it a million.
Well, now I got to give away my my tidbit. So the whole, what does he complain about most in life? Like in the movie, what does he complain the most?
Not having a car.
Not having a car, right? So he's got this synthesizer that costs $8,000. That's how he does all the coughing effects and all that. That's an $8,000 synthesizer, right? He's got this computer, and the computer's not cheap in this time period. So he's got over 10 grand worth of stuff, so he can easily have a car. But then there's a line at the end of the movie. So obviously, when Jeannie goes and gets thrown in jail because, she gets thrown in jail or goes to arrested because she basically gets so upset that Ferris is ditching, right? So when they're driving home, the mother says, I was just about to close the Vermont deal. I was going to use the commission to buy Ferris a new car. So Ferris's day off actually cost him the actual thing that he wanted. But through that, though, he basically enabled happiness for everybody else. So in a way, it's a selfless.
But it wasn't Ferris's fault that Jeannie went to the jail and had
It's
to
not his
ruin
fault, but he caused it.
Well, no, Jeannie caused it because she wouldn't think about it herself.
Right. Triggered, I guess, is the better word. But my point is, like,
good point though.
His day off is ultimately what cost him his car, because if he just went to school, he was getting a car because she would have closed the deal. And that's the 5-second version of the movie. But
can you make an argument that, at the beginning, he didn't care about his friend Cameron so much, but then at the end, he was going to take the rap for him. And so he sort of kind of grew a little bit as like understanding what a friend was. But at the end of the day, he's still, and this is a common theme almost for a lot of 80s really amazing movies, like where there's just no real character arc for the main character.
Well, but he does have a character arc. He becomes more selfless by the end of this film. Now, it's not necessarily advertent, like he's not seeking to become
the same exact spot where he began.
No, he's not, dude. He like you're saying, his relationship with Cameron is way better by the end, and he is a deeper character by the end of this film than he was at the beginning, because then him and his sister, he basically converts his sister to being a fan. So their relationship moving forward is way better. His parents' relationship was always pretty good, but him and Cameron's relationship's better. And then him and Sloane probably end up getting married, and he's actually probably committed to her at this point because of how, again, they're deep in relationship because of this day. So Pete, I just, unfortunately you're wrong again, which you almost had a point, and then now you're gonna get it taken away.
But it's not the classic sense of reaching a new status quo.
But John Hughes isn't about classic, Pete. John Hughes is an innovator, and he just innovated a new way to tell a story.
No, that's
mic
true.
Drop.
Right, but also whatever.
No, look, you bring up your points are valid. But again, I think that's where, again, for me, I probably would have argued with you. I would have agreed with you before I read this little tidbit of him. His day off cost him actually what he wanted the most. But I guess through that loss, he gained, a more global, wider view of people, and he became less selfish and actually gave a shit about other people, and that to me is his real character arc. But who knows, when you write something in 3 days, bro, like how much do you know, like how deep do you think John Hughes really got with some of this stuff, right? Like he said, I have a beginning, I have an end. I don't necessarily know how the middle is going to get there, but and who knows, right? Yeah, it's good. I'll make sure I cut that out.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's like a gnat in my.
This is not Karate Kid, Pete.
Only chopsticks.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on. Okay, so let's award some points here. So I'm going to award Pete the point for the best background. Obviously, you guys kind of cancel each other out there, unfortunately.
Oh, I am the girl.
Okay, that's clever. That's clever. That's clever. But
doesn't it kind of like even out because you took a point away for the hat and the glasses?
Yeah.
Come on, at least I attempted something.
Yeah. Well, no, we won't take.
I am proud of the girl.
Yep, it was a fake minus point, but we'll give Pete a point for the background. But I'm gonna give Rose a point for her explanation.
Yeah, that was great.
I thought she added a lot of
so good
value and perspective that I think we needed, because
totally.
And she made us kind of get into a deeper topic, which I like too. So good job, Rose.
Good go, Rose.
Yeah, love it.
All right, so a couple other quick notes. The budget for this film was $6 million, and it ended up making over $7 million. So and for you math majors, that's a pretty good return on investment.
I think it was 70, wasn't it?
That's what I said, 70.
Oh,
you said 7.
No, I said 7D. 7D.
Oh, okay, that's a
hey,
lot.
If you guys talk back, I'll take more points away.
Dude, no. I heard 7 million. I'm like, wow, it only made $1 million.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I thought I read different.
It budget 6, made 70 million worldwide.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's an excellent return on investment, which is why John Hughes kept getting contracts. So the reviews are awesome. I don't know if you guys had checked out the reviews. So Richard Schenkel of Time Magazine gave it 100. Good job, Richard Schenkel.
Good job.
That's exactly right. You nailed it. Because what else is there? Ferris and his adventures represent a teen's dream of glory, to have at one's fingertips the technical skills to sabotage the adult world's machinery of oppression, and at the tip of one's tongue, the perfect squelch for grown-ups' moralistic blather. I think that's a well-written review. That was actually done in 1986 when it came out. Roger Ebert, our boy of Chicago Sun-Times,
God rest his soul.
yeah, gave it a 3 stars, which is not bad. And now it's rated 75, but that's because he only has 4 stars, so 3 stars. So 3 stars, okay, not a terrible rating. The film's heart is in the right place.
That's shocking from Roger Ebert, that he would give a movie like this 3 out of 4 stars. Like, I'm stunned.
Totally.
The film's heart is in the right place, and Ferris Bueller is slight, whimsical, and sweet. Now, here's where we get to some people who are going to blast them. Whether they're living or dead, it does not matter. You wrote this, and your writing lives in perpetuality. So, perpetuity? I don't know. I can never say that word right. Perpetuity. Yes, that's it. I can never say that word right. I always make it up.
I think that deserves
So Gene Siskel, who was Roger Ebert's sidekick of the Chicago Tribune, he gave it 2 stars. That the film doesn't live up to our anticipation of a rollicking good time is only part of the disappointment. Not good, Gene.
What movie was watching?
Yeah, what movie were we watching, Gene? And so
Every 2 seconds there was something amazing happening in this film.
I think you're dealing with people that don't necessarily, because even Roger Roper, who obviously partnered with, and he put it one of his favorite films of all time. So these film critics are very finicky. And then I had to put this girl on blast, because this girl, I mean, honestly, should be hung and should never do a movie review. But Julie Salomon of the Wall Street Journal. First of all, if you're in the Wall Street Journal, probably don't review films. Why don't you talk money? Because that's your business.
Start there.
You give it a 0. A 0. Like, I don't even know how you could give it a 0.
A 0?
Yeah, like not even a 1. Not a 2.
She probably gave senior year a 5.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if she's living though. She put one of the least appealing movies I've seen in a while. When a member of the audience belched loudly, that got the biggest laugh of the day. And that was at the time, June 17th, 1986.
What an idiot.
Yeah.
So send her to hell.
Yeah. Well, again, you're at the Wall Street Journal. That's maybe leave film reviews to the Action podcast, because we know
you can go to hell.
There you go, Pete. That's good. Okay, guys. So this will lead us into our first list. And let me tell you, audience, these lists that we have today, I challenge you guys to come up with your own list, because it is one of the most difficult exercises that you'll ever do. Some people say the SRTs are hard, or maybe law school. No,
not even close.
Do these lists. Yes. It'll change your life. So with that, we'll start with Rose on this one. Rose, please give us your top 5 80s comedies of all time.
Starting with 5.
Yes.
Okay.
So remember, guys, we'll do honorable mention afterwards. Just give us your top 5 to 1, and then we'll all throw in some honorable mentions after, because I know we're all going to have some. So.
Well, I'm not from the 80s, so I have watched a lot of them, but I'm gonna put 5 here. So after I watch this movie, that's my number 5. Right now it's 5, because if I watch more and more, maybe goes up.
Yeah, hey, that's fair. For first time, number 5 is always a
Then number 4 is Coming to America.
Nice.
I think that movie, like the second one, that they did an awful job, but the first one is
I wouldn't say an awful job, but it's definitely predicated on the first one.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Then the third one is Good Morning America, the Vietnam story.
Yeah.
Because
Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning America is just a talk show, and
Good Morning America is not good.
Then I don't know if people because as we talked about the simplistic things, but for me, these two go like kind of together, but The Breakfast Club and Back to the Future, the first one.
Right.
I will trilogy, but if I have to choose one, I think the first one does an amazing job. The second one, and then the third one picks it up. So yeah, those are my 80s comedies.
So number
Because
2, Breakfast Club. Number 1, Back to the Future.
yes, because Back to the Future, it gives me more. I have more memories, and I used to watch it with my dad. I'm more like, but Breakfast Club is amazing, beautiful.
For sure.
Not bad.
Dominique.
Yes.
Good
Okay,
boy.
I'm very excited to share it. You'll notice a theme.
Okay.
Okay, number 5, Caddyshack.
Nice.
Yep, I love Chevy Chase. He's one of
Yeah.
my favorites. Number 4, Beverly Hills Cop.
Nice.
First one, first and second though, they go toe to toe.
I mean, the thing when you know, a lot of these have sequels, so I mean, if you know, to me, you're kind of including 1 and 2, so I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Cool. Number 3, one of my all-time favorites, Trading Places. I could quote that movie all day long.
Yeah.
Okay, love that movie. Number 2 is Revenge of the Nerds. Also another movie that I love and adore.
Yeah, I think I actually like number 2 better than number 1, but that's only because we saw number 2 way more. Yeah, like we saw number 2 before we saw number 1. I want to say, Pete.
Number 2 is when they go to like South Beach, right?
Yeah,
on
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, number 2 is good. Well, so yeah, both, right? We just said 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
But love Revenge of the Nerds. And then,
yeah, I'm the man on the mic who they call Lamar.
Oh yeah, Lamar Latrobe. That's right. And then see, it still makes me laugh out loud. Yeah, and then my number 1 is Coming to America, because that is just ultimate classic 80s, ultimate classic Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Never gets old, still quote it. It's great from start to finish.
Absolutely. Good list.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, Pete. I mean, I think I need to.
What? Listen, you're the moderator.
We're kind of, going a nice little clockwise here.
I'm with you. Damn, I just lost a point by stalling. Okay, so my honorable mention list is like 97.
Whoa, yeah, no honorable mention.
I'm not giving the list. I'm saying that there's 97 films on my honorable mention list.
Seriously.
In the 80s was all about comedies. Even the action movies were comedies. Even like the most romantic, serious movies were comedies. So this was a challenge. This was very difficult. And so I sort of kept it very personal to me. So number 5 for me, it was a sneaky comedy for me because I'd never seen a movie done like this before. And it was The Princess Bride. I thought the comedy in the movie was very fast paced and witty, and even the sword fighting scenes where I mean they're basically having these comedic conversations while they're trying to kill each other. It was just, I'd never seen it before, and it was really, really well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 4 for me is Big. It was
so good. That was an honorable mention for me.
The movie was just like Ferris Bueller was, where it was like, I want that in my life. I want to be big.
Yeah.
You know, I want to ditch school and have the best day ever. Like these were like these kind of movies.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me is Ghostbusters. It's one of those movies that I quote just like Ferris all day, every day, even to this day. Number 2, I agree. Back to the Future was just classic. It was great. Number 1 for me is Ferris Bueller's. It was the greatest comedy. It was the most fast-paced, quick-witted. Every single scene had something funny in it, especially if you've watched it a million times like I have. Each scene, even if you didn't catch it the first time, there's something really, really funny. You just have to look for it. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. So when I did my list, like you said, Pete made a good point. Like a lot of these movies are action comedies or adventure comedies, and so I try to keep it almost like as pure comedy as possible, because it just got so difficult when you don't keep it. Like Back to the Future, I didn't include on my list only because I mean it's not that funny. I mean, it's got some comical lines, but it's more
that movie's hilarious.
It's more like comical versus comedy, you know what I mean? And when you see my list, like these are funny films, and they make me laugh out loud more than like a Back to the Future would. But like Ghostbusters, I kind of put in the same thing as more as like an action comedy versus like a pure comedy, but it's hilarious. Like it's funny. I don't think it's hilarious, right? Ghostbusters, although there's some great lines in it. But anyway, so here's my list. Number
Not
five,
related to you anymore.
I put Major League. And number 5, I struggled the most because I was just, I mean, Major League, I don't know if there was ever really a good sports comedy before this, but oh no, Caddyshack, never mind.
Yeah.
Caddyshack.
What year is Major League? I thought that was 90s for some reason.
Yeah, I think it was 89.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's like right at the
Right on the
cusp. Okay.
cusp.
Yeah. I got it from the IMDb list. I probably wouldn't have included it because I thought it was the 90s too, but I'm like, I can't knock off Major League because I've seen it so many times.
So many times.
And you know, there's the lines and all that. It's so freaking funny. And so that's my number 5. My number 4, and I'm very disappointed nobody put this on their list, but it's Three Amigos. And Three Amigos.
That was 5A for me. And I struggled between that and Princess Bride, man. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I went to see Steve Martin and Martin Short at the Hollywood Bowl this past weekend, and they are both 72 and 77.
Yeah.
And they were on fire.
Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious.
The new show is amazing.
It was amazing. Their show was hilarious. It was just from start to finish. It was so they're still so good.
Yeah, I even asked you, like, did they sing My Buttercup on that?
Yeah,
like,
no, they didn't sing it,
that would have
wasted
the house down.
opportunity.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's my number 4. My number 3 is Ferris Bueller. You know, for all the reasons we've been saying. And honestly, like, I could theoretically 1, 2, and 3, I could probably mix them all up. Number 2 is the one I kind of broke my own rule that I mentioned a little bit before, but it's only because it's Eddie Murphy and it's Beverly Hills Cop, but he's just so freaking funny in this movie.
So good.
And the way he just cons his way through everything, I couldn't not include Beverly Hills Cop on this list. And you know, Beverly Hills Cop is probably one of my top 5 films in general. And so I couldn't not put it on my list. And then number 1 is Dominique's the same, but Coming to America. I mean, it's the greatest comedy of all time. It's genius.
Totally.
You know, it created that mold. I mean, Peter Sellers created the mold in terms of like the multiple comedic characters, but Eddie Murphy took it to a whole nother level.
Nailed it.
And then, you know, obviously Mike Myers is in the same league.
Arsenio Hall played different characters in it too, which was awesome.
Arsenio Hall's no slouch on the multiple characters.
Right.
It's such a great film. And so the one I wanted to include the most, and this is the one I battled Major League most, was Spaceballs. I was like, I got to include Spaceballs because that's
It was such a different kind of comedy, Spaceballs, where it was just a silly movie, but it was based off of a movie that you loved and grew up with in Star Wars. Like, you knew Star Wars like the back of your hand, and then you went and saw Spaceballs, and everything made you laugh because it was all a spoof on something that you absolutely loved. And it was just a silly movie, but it was perfectly executed.
Yeah. And then again, like you're saying, it's such a hard thing to do with, you know, Star Wars being as successful as it was. But yeah,
being the eldest out of all of us, like, there was a couple of, I just want to say, like, a couple of my honorable mentions. A couple of them you guys probably had never really seen, but the original Police Academy was so.
No, I had that on my list, and
it was
even
so innovative.
But even 2 and 3, Pete. Like, I mean, there was 4 in that decade, and that one I want to include. It deserves as a franchise to be up in there.
It deserves it.
I just don't watch it that much anymore, so I think that's what I guess kind of lowers it. Like, it's also like those movies I put in my top 5, like I watch those at least once every year, if not multiple times.
At least once a year, exactly.
And so that's kind of ultimately where I drew the line too, is just how much time I watch it.
Yeah, and I left off the obvious classic movies that I know that people watching this are going to say, well, what about Airplane? What about Stripes? What about the Blues Brothers? Like, look, those are amazing comedies.
Those are a little bit before my time.
Best of all time.
Same.
Caliber for sure.
Yeah.
Mine was very, very much more personal.
Yeah. Same.
Even movies like The Money Pit with Tom Hanks.
Oh my God, that's my honorable mention.
It was so funny.
Naked
The
Gun.
Money Pit's my number. I was going between that and Caddyshack because there's nothing funnier to me than Tom Hanks in a comedic role is my favorite.
Yeah.
I love Money Pit. That and action comedy was Romancing the Stone. I love that one too.
That was good.
Yeah. Or Howard the Duck.
Naked Gun.
Or
Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck, I hated knocking off my list. And then Naked Gun was like one of the big ones.
Naked Gun was huge.
And the vacation movies. The vacation movies were also really tough to leave off.
A sneaky good 80s movie, if you're really feeling it, that has to do with like high school, which won't be on anybody's lists ever, but it deserves a mention, is Summer School. It's a it's a sneaky, funny movie. Mark Harmon is really funny in it.
Yeah.
Kirstie Alley's in it. It's just a cute movie, and it's hilarious.
And the other one I would say honorable mention, and I didn't include it mainly because it's a Christmas movie, but is A Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
Yeah, and that's how super hilarious. I mean, theoretically, right? It probably should be on number one's every list because everybody watches it at least
every year,
3-4 times a year because it's on 24 hours of A Christmas Story.
TBS. Yeah,
but
that's TBS or TNT, one of the two.
Yeah. But I think maybe that film unfortunately probably has a little saturation as well, so it probably drops slightly because of that. But yeah, so those are my honorable mentions. Rose, with any other ones for you?
I don't know the majority of the film, so
no worries.
But I mean, you could go. I mean, Dragnet, Twins, Bill and Ted's.
Oh yeah, Bill and Ted.
Adventures in Babysitting, Back to School. Like there were so many amazing comedies in the 80s. This was really, really hard list to accomplish. So I'm really curious about everybody's top 5 list on this one. Please give us your list below, please.
Yeah, please comment below. Comment who you think did the best. So this one, so I'm gonna give 2 half points only because I didn't like your number one, Pete. So Pete gets a half point, I think, for a stronger overall list. But Dominique had Coming to America as her number one, and was also my favorite. And you didn't even have it on your list, huh? Yeah,
but I also have Revenge of the Nerds. Come on.
My number one is Ferris Bueller. So what are we talking about?
No, Coming to America. Coming to America.
Yeah, Coming to America. Come on.
So she gets a half point.
Isn't called Coming to America.
You both get a half point. Actually, I'm not going to do half points because that makes the graphics harder. So you'll just both get a point for that. So Pete has 2, Dominique has 1, and Rose has 1. That is our updated standings going into it. Okay, our next category is, and the Oscar goes to, and this can go to a cast or crew member who performed the best. And just so some of the actual awards, Matthew Broderick was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for acting. And what was the other one? Oh, and then the film itself, and this is a big honor for people that aren't fully aware. So the Library of Congress has a national film registry. And so it's basically, if your film is considered basically like legacy, it'll get adopted into this national film registry. So in 2014, this film got inducted into the National Film Registry. So that's a big deal. And especially as a filmmaker, I mean, to me, that's the dream, is to get your film in the National Film Registry. And so, yeah, great job, John Hughes, on this. So I'll start with you, Pete, on this one. Who does your Oscar go to? And this
is like, I don't know. I'll try to sell it. But it was really difficult to understand what was the script versus what we see on screen, because I would have given it to like best screenplay because of how amazing it was written, but I think that's more editorial, like the timing of this movie. But I mean, in terms of editing, it's not going to win any awards by any stretch. I went simple. I went with the best actor. I went with Matthew Broderick. I mean, you can't put anybody else in this role. We can pretend and we can try to see if somebody else can do this role, but he played it off so perfectly and was, like you were saying, I mean, he was hilarious. He was charming. He was sweet. He was heartbreaking. He was fun. He was adventurous. He was everything that you wanted in a best friend. Growing up, I always related to Cameron, not because my life was shit, but because you're
always depressed.
I was always like sad.
You're always sick and depressed.
I was always sick. This is true. Sick. I was always laying in bed pretending to be sick and watching Ferris Bueller while I was sick.
I was Genie. Why does Pete get to stay home again? He gets to stay home from school just because he's sick again? That doesn't make any sense.
Paul, don't be upset with me. You have your health.
Exactly. I had perfect attendance.
Matthew Broderick. Matthew Broderick killed it. That's that.
I mean, look, it's hard to argue against that. So Dominique, who was your pick?
Well, I was going to say the same thing.
Well, who's got a better explanation?
Well, I'll change it up. I think also acting wise, I'm going to give it up for Jennifer Grey, because also known her was as Baby in Dirty Dancing, which I believe came out after, but just super mad at the world, super crapped out, super pissed off, total bitch, mean, you know, and I think she just embodied that character so well in how she portrayed the just hater sister. And she's so entertaining in it as well, even though it's really not, I guess, probably meant to be funny, but I think it's funny. And
no, 100%. I think he played it straight, which in turn makes it funny, right?
Right.
Kind of like Charlie Sheen, right? Like he's not purposely trying to be funny, but he just he just plays it straight, and that's what makes it so funny.
Right.
James Gray had incredible timing for this role, like especially during this scene here. Yeah, where he like says something, she just turns, she's like, well, why don't you stick your thumb up your butt? You know what I mean? Like her timing and her delivery on it was so perfect that even though like she didn't break a character, nobody was really laughing, but it was hilarious. It was a hilariously delivered line.
Yeah, she's so good.
Absolutely.
Or when the kid's collecting money for Ferris in the hallway of the high school, and she like totally knocks the cup out of his can, just keeps walking with no shame.
The guy just yells, "Ferris is going to save your life one day."
Yeah.
Whatever he says.
Heartless wench.
Yeah,
heartless wench.
All right, Rose, what do you got?
Okay, so I was going to say also Ferris, but now that they have said it, I'm going to change it up. And I think I'm going to give it to the casting team. Because to have the great cast and to have a great movie, you need to know who to cast. And that happened after the future. They made half of the first movie and they had to throw it all away because they didn't have the great and a specific actor they needed. So I'm gonna give it to the cast.
Do you actually know the casting director's name or no? Why don't you look it up and I'll speak for a second. Can somebody look that up?
I'm gonna try to find.
I'm
gonna. So I can change.
Absolutely. And then obviously, I mean, John Hughes. Pete, you kind of mentioned it with the editing, but John Hughes wrote the script. But then, you know, he's a big believer in the script is just a blueprint, and so a lot of what we see in the final product, like the words that come up when he's telling about how to fake your parents. That wasn't in the script. And that was something that they did in post-production. The Star Wars scene or the Star Wars music when they're flying through the car was done in post-production.
And by the way, Janet Hershenson and Jane Jenkins casting.
Okay. So congrats to them. Great job on the casting.
Well done, for sure. It's like I said in the very beginning, like each of these characters was perfectly. I mean, how can you change any of these characters? They killed each performance, each one, even the small ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Good answer, Rose.
And again, but just again, I want to make sure John Hughes gets his credit, and obviously he does. But again, going back to the fact that he wrote this in majority of it in 3 days, and those 3 days, like the 50 pages weren't even barely touched. I mean, he's just a genius when it comes to that. And then adding on to the casting, I mean, Rooney, you know, absolutely crushes this. And like kind of the same thing with Jennifer Grey, like his mannerisms and his timing with everything, like, ooh, you're like Dirty Harry right then. You know,
can I tell you one of my favorite parts is when he's yelling at the secretary.
And then, you know, Edie McClure herself is crushes it with just her little lines. And, you know, the cast is just never ending. The Shay, the Shaky guy, don't make me get snotty. Yeah, I mean, like that guy was excellent too. So so good. Yeah, Rose, good job on that. Way to think outside the box, and we'll go ahead and give you the point for that one.
Well done, well deserved. That was a good.
Good job. All right. So Pete 2, Dominique 1, and Rose 1 or 2. Excuse me. So tie ball game, Pete and Rose. Okay. So then next we have the Get Me Ari Gold Award for different casting. So this one's going to be tough, I think. Well, I don't know if I'm going to give points for this or not. So we'll go Ferris first. So for Ferris Bueller, there's Rob Lowe, John Cusack, Jim Carrey. And by the way, Pete, how many times have we heard Jim Carrey for all these roles? And like honestly, this is like before. I mean, he's just a stand-up, I believe, at this time. I mean, he's a stand-up in Toronto.
He's stand-up. He might have done Once Bitten, maybe, but
yeah.
Even
but, I mean, Living Color was his breakout role. So he he has yet to do anything, but he's had he's considered for so many great roles. It's kind of crazy how, you know,
Living Color was early 90s, no?
like,
I
yeah,
think
like 90.
Living Color came out like 90 or 91.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
91.
so throughout the 80s, apparently Jim Carrey was a hot commodity, and he just never got that
Just wasn't right.
big
Yeah.
break, you know, and thank God, you know, thank God he didn't get the big break back then, because then
he may have a different career. Yeah. He never made, because he ultimately ends up a major superstar. I mean, he's
huge.
Theoretically a bigger superstar at his peak than Matthew Broderick, right? Like, made more money for sure.
And then Jim Carrey, you know, from what I hear, he went against the Illuminati, and that's why his career kind of went down the tube. So, you know, that's why once you're part of that club,
yeah,
stay there, man.
Great point, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay, so going back to it, so I'll start the list over again. Rob Lowe, John Cusack, Jim Carrey, Johnny Depp, Tom Cruise, Robert Downey Jr., and Michael J. Fox were all considered for the role of Ferris Bueller. Eric Stoltz also auditioned for the role. So, my friends, who you can't obviously choose Matthew Broderick. That's the exercise here. Out of that list, and why? Who would you select?
Charlie Sheen.
So, what
Would you say?
Charlie Sheen. I know he wasn't in the list. Go for it. Sorry.
I'm gonna go Robert Downey Jr. I think he's the only one that has the charm and the wit that could have played Ferris. Maybe just as not as good, but he's the first person I thought of when you said that list.
Yeah.
I'll go Johnny Depp. Maybe.
You're saying Johnny Depp?
Yes.
Okay. Pete, who do you got?
I mean, in a universe where Back to the Future never happened, I mean, Michael J. Fox, I think would have been the only one that sort of has that sort of charm that you can also add to some serious acting, very comedic acting. There's a charm about him that I think all of these other characters sort of lack. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. today, I've said this before, Robert Downey Jr. today is phenomenal. But I mean, he was a much different actor back then.
Yeah, he was a little bit of a bad boy back then.
Didn't have the same sort of charisma. And Rob Lowe was just good looking. I mean, he was good. And
what about John Cusack?
No, he didn't have, no offense to Cusack, but he doesn't have the face. It's not he doesn't have a charming face. He's a great actor, but he doesn't have that charming face. Ferris had it. Michael J. Fox has it.
Yeah, and he might be too powerful too, in a way, right? Like,
he's almost too adult. He's too, he acts too mature, even though he's a high schooler. He was the same thing in Say Anything. Like, he was very mature.
Yeah,
actor.
exactly. Yeah, because like you're saying, it's really this boyish charm, right? It's not just charm, because Rob Lowe has charm. I mean, all these guys have charm. Tom Cruise obviously has charm, but it's the boyish charm that you're really looking for. And I think all those other actors are almost too mature for that role, and it's just not viable, because, you know, again, he's like, it's childish. He even says it in the beginning. He's like, you got to lick your palms. I know it's childish, but
lick your palms.
I can't see Tom Cruise doing that at that time, right? Like,
but I also think about there's the one scene at the very beginning where he's in his bed with his parents, and it's the
that sounded weird.
Pumpkin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like that little boyish kind of like playful sort of thing.
Yeah, he's like a 6-year-old.
Only Michael J. Fox can pull that off.
Yeah, I actually agree with Pete. That was the guy I thought for all they're exactly the same reason. None of these guys are. Yeah,
he wasn't on the list, was he?
Say it again.
He wasn't on the list.
Michael J. Fox was, yeah.
Oh, you just lost a point, Rose.
I didn't hear Michael J. Fox, Rose, so I've got your back on that one.
Well, you know, it's also on your script, guys. If you're following along on your script,
script, right?
That you got 12 minutes before they got 12 minutes before this podcast. You would have easily been able to read that.
Sure.
Oh, come on.
All right. Well, Pete gets the point for that one. You guys need to listen better. I'll try and enunciate better so we don't have any miscommunications like that again. Okay. So Cameron, I don't know if I'm gonna give points for this one, but so Cameron, it originally been offered to Emilio Estevez, who turned it down. Anthony Michael Hall also turned it down because he didn't want to be typecast. And then John Candy auditioned for the role.
John Candy,
fearing he was too old for the part, which it sounds. I mean, even though Alan Ruck was 29 when he did this film, he's the What's
Yeah,
the,
he's
is it-
29.
what's the girl on Beverly Hills? Beverly Hills 90210 that was like 30 years-
Gabrielle Carteris. She was
Yeah,
famous.
Gabrielle. She was like
Yeah.
90.
Yeah, she was like the same. And she didn't even look that young either. I mean, she looked like
Oh,
she looked like a woman in high school.
she's 30.
Yeah.
It's like in high school. It was like when you saw Drew Barrymore when she went back to high school in that one movie, whatever it was,
Yeah.
Never Been Kissed.
Never been
But I
kissed.
mean, I can't even see Emilio Estevez in that role.
No,
I mean,
he's too small.
Cameron. Yeah, especially because Emilio Estevez is like you're saying, he comes from being such a winner in the other film, Breakfast Club. Like, I just can't see him as being like the lovable loser type.
But there was something amazing about how, Cameron was tall and bigger, but so
But weak, yeah.
And Matthew Broderick was so small, but he was so powerful and confident. Emilio Estevez would have worked because I think it would have been even shorter than Matthew Broderick. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the same height. But yeah, I mean, Alan Ruck was an excellent casting
Super.
for this, and he crushed the role. Okay, so Mia Sara beat Molly Ringwald to the role because according to John Hughes, she had elegance. According to Ringwald, John wouldn't let me do it. He said that part wasn't big enough for me. But do you think Molly Ringwald was good enough for this role? I don't.
That sounds like when Molly Ringwald says something like that, it's almost like, she's angry about it and she's just trying to like save face a little bit. Now, Mia Sara, I mean,
well, I just don't think she's. I just don't think she's right for the role, and I think maybe John Hughes knew that, and it's like, yeah, you're my actress, and we're gonna do plenty of work together. This role just isn't yours, like, you know what I mean? And sometimes that's hard to say to somebody you have a good relationship with. But
Molly Ringwald was very cute. I remember, growing up in that time, like she was a very cute actress. But I mean, Ferris needed the hot girl at high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Molly Ringwald, she was the popular rich girl always, and she was always very cute and lovable. And you saw the beauty within as well as the external. Like she was almost like the whole package in that time period. But
yeah,
Mia Sara was just, I mean, I remember just like seeing her and just being like, oh my God.
Yeah. And even the scene, I think
Gorgeous.
for me, the scene where Molly Ringwald wouldn't have worked is, obviously Molly Ringwald has like red hair, and in the cab when she's basically trying to Mia Sara has to starts flirting with the dad. Like, I don't know if Molly Ringwald can kind of hide because she knows the dad, right? Like there's a scene where she recognizes the dad too, so obviously she's met the parents before, so she's got to look different enough with sunglasses on that you wouldn't recognize her. So that's where I kind of thought maybe we're Molly Ringwald, but then the taxi scene wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I just remember being so enamored with her because I thought she was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I loved her from Legend that she did with Tom Cruise. I love that movie.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. She was
And
so
then-
beautiful.
Wait,
Bye-bye, like nothing after that.
The movie that she did with Tom Cruise prior, Legend.
Legend. You remember Legend?
You never
I don't
saw
remember
Legend?
Uh-uh.
Oh,
I
so
thought
good.
they meant I Am
Came out
Legend. I'm like, I don't think Tom
before-
Cruise is in I Am Legend.
No. I think it came out right before like Neverending Story. It was right
I
around
feel
that
like it's
same time period.
1984 maybe around there. Yeah,
A very fantastical film,
it's really good.
All right, I'll check it out.
You have to
it's
check
good.
that out. Very
then-
early Tom Cruise.
It's good. It's not really good, but
And then the other casting was Tom Skerritt was considered for the role of Ed Rooney, and the other one, and this is the one I was talking with you earlier, Pete, is Paul Gleason was considered for the role of Ed Rooney. He was the principal in Breakfast Club, but I could see him executing it. It would have been a different role. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't replace Jeffrey Jones. I mean, he crushes it in this movie, but Paul Gleason would have been solid. That would have been a solid number 2.
although if I would have known about him, Jeffrey Jones, during this filming, what he was going to do later on in life, maybe I would not have cast him.
100%. I was
Oh,
going to
that's
say,
right. I
are we
forgot
talking
about
about that?
Yeah. Nothing big, just, something about possession of child pornography
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
solicitation.
Well, look, we're
14-year-old.
we're only focused on 1985 Ed Rooney, and we'll leave it at that. We're
Not
86.
2002 Ed Rooney.
86. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Fair
This
enough.
leads us to another difficult list that we all have to rack our brains for. And again, our audience, we challenge you to go through this exercise and come up with your top 5 high school movies. So this is
Huge
any movie that takes place in high school. Majority of the film takes place in high school, just so we're totally clear. Where like the main characters are in high school. So we're all clear with the category. And
Oh, wait, high school?
yeah, exactly. Well, because a couple movies I didn't actually consider it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. That does take place in high school. Because once I saw this list, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, okay, that's a high school film, yeah. So
are we saving honorable mentions till the end again?
Yes, same rules, 5-1, and then saving your honorable mention. So who's starting first in this one? Is it, who finished last?
I'll go.
I could go.
All right,
I'll go.
Oh, we'll go Dominique first. She never gets to go first.
Go ahead, wow us.
It's like Hollywood Square. She's always in the center square.
Blow us away, Dominique. Go ahead.
All right,
All right, here we go. Coming in at number 5 is Clueless, because as a teen girl in the 90s, specifically 94, 95, freshman year of high school, I wanted to be Cher and her friends. I emulated everything that they wore. We quoted it. We watched it a million times.
Yeah.
Clueless is everything.
And to your point, Pete and I even added the Clueless quote, "Ugh, as if," to our new segment, because we had a segment called "Excited, Not Excited," and it was the worst named segment ever. And so I was like, all right, we gotta get something. We gotta get some quotes or something to like, rename this. So we named it "Yippee Ki-Yay" or "Ugh, as if." So it's basically Die Hard and Clueless. So I want to give your movie a shout out there.
So Clueless is great, especially because it took place here in LA, and it was totally relatable and all the things if you grew up in this area at that time. And so
it catapulted Alicia Silverstone to a star.
Totally.
And I mean, everybody my age for sure was in love with her. I mean, I thought I was going to marry her at one point.
That and Aerosmith.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so that's my number 5. Number 4 is Scream. And I will never forget watching that also at the Man 6 RIP. Had no idea what to expect. I knew it was a horror film, but they killed Drew Barrymore in the first 5 minutes. Like, what was that? Especially because she had kind of come back from not doing anything in a really long time.
Yeah. Sure.
But I remember going with friends from high school. It took place in high school, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Put Barrymore back on the map for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. She had been gone for quite a while, and here she was, and I thought, oh wow, she's really going to do something in this film. And then
if I believe correctly, she was labeled on the top. She was one of the top names in the film, and everyone's just like, whoa, what? You just killed off a main character?
I remember being shocked in the theater, like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So that is number 4. Number 3 is The Breakfast Club, because Saturday school, it's a detention, total typical high school. And then I like how you have all the different characters. You got the jock, the princess, the brain, the weirdo, so that is number 3 for me. Number 2, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Nice. Also adore that movie. Spicoli, Mr. Hand, Judge Reinhold, Phoebe Cates, all of them. Yeah, it's just all good. And then my number 1, and this is one of my favorite movies in general of all time, and it's just because I watch it on repeat, and is Dazed and Confused. I love Dazed and Confused. When I first watched it, which was in the 90s, I think came out like 93, I was like, in my mind, the 70s seemed so far back, right? Yeah. And it was not even 15 years prior. But I wanted to be in high school during that time, just because of the, carelessness and the carefree life that they were living in the summer. And I could just feel like the summer nights with driving around your friends and playing your music and, football games and baseball games and fun stuff like that. So that is my number 1.
Awesome. All right. Sweet. We'll go to Rose next, and then we'll close out with Pete. So Rose, what are your top 5 high school movies?
Okay. You're going to laugh at mine, but I don't care. Number 5, I will put Heathers, because I think Winona Ryder and the chemistry between Winona Ryder and the guy, it just brings
and Slater.
Christian Slater.
Yeah.
Wow.
The typical Winona, that is the snapping and the I don't know, her reactions in that movie, amazing. In 4th is Clueless, as if, of course. 3, 10 Things I Hate About You. I love that movie. I think Heath Ledger in that movie. It was like when you saw that movie and you see him,
So cute.
you fall in love, and he's such a well. Then the Breakfast Club. I think the dialogue and everything about that movie, and also the simplicity, but how everything goes. The story, it's amazing. It goes and it drives you, and it's so interesting, and you keep watching it and watching it, and it's a classic. I actually watched it after Pitch Perfect. I hadn't watched it when I watched Pitch Perfect. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch The Breakfast Club. Amazing. And then number one, and you're gonna laugh about this one, but this is my favorite. One of my favorite movies is She's the Man. I think that movie.
She's the man. The number one. Wow.
Yes.
Wait, is that with Marlon Wayans?
No, that's with Amanda Bynes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that Rachel Evan Wood or something?
No, that's She's All That.
Oh, that's She's All That. That's
Yeah.
right.
no, she's all that. No, this one is one that the girl wanted to be a football player, so she changed places with his brother to go to that school.
Wow.
So he has some Channing Tatum.
Wow.
One of the best movies in my
What a
life.
list.
Like I go
Man, okay.
every day. Yeah, I know. My
Oh,
list
I kind
just-
of remember that. I kind of remember that movie.
It's amazing. It's laughable. But yeah, that's why I said my
Interesting. Very interesting.
Wow.
All right, Pete.
I don't know. Tough competition here. Okay, so for my list, I did two things that I never do. One, I left Dead Poet Society off of it because it's my favorite movie of all time, and I can't just have that be number one forever.
Always.
So,
I mean, you can.
no. But I just decided for this list not to include Dead Poet Society. I also made number 5 a slash, which I never do. But I couldn't do.
I will let you know if your slash is appropriate. You've got to
Is
have a
that
very good
allowed?
reason to slash.
No, listen. You slash all the time. This
I
is
have a
my
reason for
first
slashing
slash
now.
of all time.
I have a reason for slashing.
Okay, if I can continue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Just letting you know before you do it.
I couldn't put Clueless without slashing like Mean Girls, only because of like, how like Clueless was it changed the game. It really did. It added so many new elements into that sort of teen thing. But I think that Mean Girls took that same formula and then just elevated it even just a little bit more with Tina Fey.
I'll let it stand. I'll let it stand.
You know,
Heather's Mean Girls. That what I was going to do a slash with Heather.
Guys,
Totally.
you
I
just
think
gotta
Heather's
sell
was the
me the
original.
slash, guys.
all right. I sold the slash. What are you
Sold
gonna
the
do?
slash. I'll
That's
accept it.
fine. Number 4 for me was a movie. It's more of a recent movie. It's Super Bad. It was one of the more hilarious movies I think I've ever seen, and I related to Jonah Hill's character so much.
Yeah.
It was funny, and everybody in that movie was classic. Number 3 for me
Did
is
you also have a girl that you dance with put a period stain on your pants?
totally. I constantly had bloody clothes in high school.
I hate to see it dances.
Oh God.
Oh wow.
Number 3 for me is The Breakfast Club. It's like the quintessential high school movie. It is the one that people think about most, but it's not better than number 2, Back to the Future. That's just a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, and I never thought of it as a high school film until I saw it on the list.
High school movie also.
It's a high school movie in the present and in the past.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes.
Because I didn't think of that either until I saw it on the list, and I was like, and I thought about it. I'm like, that's not a high school movie. And I'm like, no, wait, like literally, yeah, it's all about high school.
Yeah. And under the sea dance.
Yeah.
Shaman in the Sea.
Shaman
It's
in
not
the
a
Sea
college
dance.
dance.
Yeah.
It's not an elementary school dance.
Yeah.
High school dance.
You missed opportunity, Rose.
Number one for me is the best movie that came out of the 80s, and it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That was just the best high school movie of all time. You want to talk about every different character, like Ferris Bueller being amazing.
Yeah, totally.
And Spicoli just
so good.
Yeah, the only reason why I didn't include on my list, spoiler alert, on my list, Fast Times, there's just a part in Fast Times that it just drags a little bit for me. Now I think so much of the movie, like the beginning of the movie comes in so hot, and I
You
think
don't
the
know
ending's so
what
good. There's just a small part where it just gets a little boring, but
Name that part.
Yeah,
I'd have to see it
what?
again. There's
I
just
challenge you.
a small part where it gets a little boring. Like maybe it's the when she's pregnant and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know, loses a little steam.
He's probably somebody's only
Yeah.
life.
Gonna shine.
All right, guys. Well,
Yeah.
all of you ultimately failed because you guys left off a couple, but
Wait a minute. I have my honorable mention.
no,
though.
I have to give my list first.
No.
Oh,
don't,
all right.
don't try to pull a Dominique right now with.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 5, and I had this crushed me that I even had to put it as number 5. But it just shows you how deep the list is. But I put number 5, Breakfast Club. I mean, that's a quintessential high school movie. And obviously, like even Rose puts it on the list, so it just shows you that it's got excellent staying power. My number 4, and I don't know why Pete knocked it off, but it's Dead Poet Society. Again, it was a movie I never really considered as a high school movie, but it's right. It's a boarding school movie. Oh, you know what movie I forgot? Damn it.
Toy
The one
Soldiers.
with
Toy
Brendan.
Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers.
I love Toy
But
Soldiers.
that's not high school.
It is high school. That's a boarding school.
It's like a high school, and that's why it's a little reason why I didn't put Dead Poets on there, because yes, it's technically they're in the high school age.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with high school.
But it's not like the high school environment that
Yeah.
all of these other movies
It's
have.
more of an action movie. I'm with you. But Dead
That's why I
Poet
left
Society is
Dead
number
Poets off.
4, but that is about high school. Dead Poet Society, just about a boarding school. Number 3, Pete had it on his list, but Superbad. I think Superbad is probably one of the best modern high school films, comedies, along with I think Mean Girls. That's up there as a classic. Number 2, just like Pete, Back to the Future. When I initially was thinking about this list, wasn't even thinking it was on the radar because I just didn't consider it a high school film. But yeah, Enchantment in the Sea Dance, it is a high school film, people. And then number 1, I don't understand how we're doing this podcast and no one put it on their list, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off, guys, it's the number 1 high school film of all time. How is nobody on that list? I want to take away points from each and all of you for not even including this on your list. It just, I'm
I'm
appalled.
going to change up the list because I have it on another.
As Paul, I'm appalled. Okay.
Yeah, seriously, like it can't be the number 1 John Hughes movie. It can't be the number 1 80s comedy.
Yeah.
And the number 1 best high school movie. I mean, let's change it up a little bit.
It
Yeah,
can.
got to keep it interesting.
I mean, make it number 2 then if you want to
Too
switch
many.
it up, but you can't
Right.
omit it.
But we also want to start talking about other films too.
Well, this is
about
why
what
we were going to go into our honorable mentions list, Pete. And
Right.
I'm going to start with honorable mention. So the number 1 movie that I wanted to really, really include, and I didn't. And this was probably like the high school film for us growing up, was Can't Hardly Wait. And
A good
I mean,
one.
it devastated me not to include it because that to me was like the epitome
Okay.
of my era for high school film, along with American Pie.
Oh, that's my honorable mention.
Yeah. I mean, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure would have been on there. 21 Jump Street too.
which is sneaky funny. But it's funny, people our age and younger, like Rose, that child over there, is like nobody considers and put even on the list. My honorable mention is Grease, one of the greatest.
I was just
high
about to
school
say
movies
that.
and one of the more amazing soundtracks of all time.
I mean, I don't personally like Grease that much, but I was going to include that. And then just to be a film classic guy, Rebel Without a Cause is like the original high school film, and obviously, the movie doesn't really hold up incredibly well today, but you have to look at it through a kind of a film historian eyes. But yeah, that's obviously a Rebel Without a Cause would be up there. And the other one that was a classic, and I didn't write it down, was American Graffiti. And that's like the quintessential high school movie, but George Lucas wrote and directed that one. But that was considered, I mean, that's besides Rebel Without a Cause, like that's really the only other kind of high school genres, because high school films, and this is also what John Hughes popularized, they were not a popular genre, growing up. There's no 1930s like high school film, right?
That's
There's
why
no
John Hughes is so memorable as a
He basically invented a genre.
He exactly.
Yeah.
Varsity Blues was another one that I had.
Oh, yes. Varsity Blues.
I don't want your laugh.
Oh, and I have to also say this movie because it actually was filmed at our high school, but Not Another Teen Movie is one of the greatest high school films of all time, shot at
So was
Monrovia
Grease.
High School. our
fact.
home school. And I mean, that movie's so hilarious. Starring Chris Evans is in that, which I mean, who would have thought that's Captain America growing up, you know? So
Right.
Rose,
Grease was
sounds like you got a
filmed
couple.
at Monrovia High as well.
What was?
Grease.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh?
The summer lovin' out on the bleachers. That's Monrovia High's field back in the day.
And a lot of people saw some great football in those stands watching me play. So, you know, cheers to that.
I'm gonna kill you with my honorable mention.
Go ahead, girl.
It was what? You cut out.
Heather Part 2.
No, Harry Potter. That's my honorable mention.
Harry Potter. No, they're in elementary school.
No, they're in high school.
No, not initially.
Yes, bro. Then
Harry Potter's
Potter
12
5?
years old, 11 years old.
5.
Oh, you're talking about number 5? I mean,
Yeah, whenever high school starts.
Hey, Rose loses a point.
yeah,
That's why I said it. I knew I was going to lose a point.
I mean, I guess technically you're right. That's a side one.
I grew up.
Of course.
Oh, and then two other ones I just want to mention because again they're great films. But Bring It On. You know, I never thought I would like a cheerleading movie, but I actually really enjoyed Bring It On.
Oh,
And
it's
then-
already been brought in.
Yeah, and then Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite, yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic.
The reason why I left Napoleon Dynamite off the list is because like people either really thought it was funny or they hated the shit out of it. Like,
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
I'm
I
like
love
right under love it. Like I think it's really good. I enjoyed it. I don't like love it.
It was different.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah, it was different. That's what I enjoyed about it. Okay, let me get back to my script. Oh, so I will give I'm gonna give Pete the award on this one.
What? I
Yeah.
said Dazed and Confused and Scream.
Yeah, Dazed and Confused. I'm not a big Dazed and Confused fan.
What?
That's, how you lost it. That's literally
Dazed
how
and
you lost
Confused-
it for me.
Dazed and Confused had one good line in it, which was
Yeah.
the all right. And that's about
Dominique,
it.
I actually was gonna vote for your list. I was gonna vote for your list. And then Dazed and Confused was your number one, and I'm like, yeah,
That soundtrack.
yeah,
Are you
it's,
kidding?
it's all right.
So good. They're
Right.
probably trying to figure out where to party. That's what we used to do in high school on Fridays and Saturday nights. We would drive around town, try to figure out where all of our friends were, meet up at like In and Out, right?
Yeah,
Or go to somebody's like that's totally high school. What?
I went to church.
yeah, I know, but Dazed and Confused just
Yeah.
didn't do anything for me. I was
That's
more I was more Varsity Blues. Like if you said Varsity Blues number one, I'd be like, all right, cool, yeah, you got it.
I got She's the Man.
Yeah, your list is different, Rose.
Certainly different.
Certainly different. None of your films, I think. Oh no, Breakfast Club made my list.
Girls and Clueless.
Okay, guys. So our next category is It's Not Your Fault. The most powerful scene that gets you emotional. So again, classifying emotion. This could be any sort of emotion. It could be pure joy. It could be terrified. It can be anything pretty much except for funny, just because funny, we already have a separate category for that. So I will start with we'll start with Pete on this one. Pete, what do you got?
Yeah, the most emotional scene, like really the only sort of emotional scene is when Cameron finally grows up and he finally decides that he's not going to, take anything anymore. He finally learns what it was that was being taught to him the whole film. He's got to take a stand. He's got to take a stand. That right before he goes into that, I got to take the stand aspect. He's like very sincerely, he looks over at Ferris and what's her name? Simone.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Sloan.
yeah, Sloan. Simone.
Simone's Christy Swanson.
Yeah. But exactly. He's like,
thanks, Simone.
This is the best day of my life, and I'm really gonna miss you guys next year. Like he's come to terms with the fact that as great as their relationships have been, he's about to lose these people, but he's learned the most valuable lesson, and he's okay with that, and he's ready to move forward with his life. It was powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great job, Pete. All right, Dominique, what do you have?
Man, you need to come to me first because that's what I was gonna say.
Well, try and explain it in a different way.
Well, no, I mean it's pretty much that he comes full circle, and he's, I even love the how the music changes, right? It like all of a sudden becomes this like uplifting music. Yeah, when he's like the light bulb's gone off for him and he's made the decision. He's like, I'm gonna take the rap. We're gonna sit down and have a little chat, and he's going to let him know
Morris.
Yeah.
all the things. Morris, that's
Morris
right.
and I are gonna have a
Morris
little
and I
chat.
are going to sit down and have a little chat. But I also like the part where Cameron and Sloane have their time together when they're at the parade, and
They're
Ferris
walking.
is on the parade, on the float, and they're walking together, and they're kind of talking about the future. And I remember having that feeling of like, I don't know what the hell I want to do, and there's so much pressure on you at that time to figure it out and have it all figured out and have this master plan, mapped out. And it's just such a trying time in a person's life, that senior year and the impending doom of graduation and just real life moving forward. And so I really liked how, even though, Ferris is her boyfriend and Cameron is Ferris's best friend, the two of them got to have a moment together.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. That's a really sneaky, excellent, good scene, because it's such an easy thing to not write in. And you never,
Totally.
sometimes it even happens, I think, in real life. Sometimes, people just aren't used to kind of, there's always a connection. And so you're always used to directly kind of conversing or interacting with somebody with that connection. And then when you're not, sometimes it can be awkward or not, but it's such a, like I said, it's a really kind of sneaky, deep scene within like this other scene that's about to happen, and it's just, it's so quick and so excellent, and
They could have easily gone from, oh, he didn't just ditch us, like, where is he, into him on the float, but instead they decided to take that split second to kind of do this really sort of
such great writing.
Moment.
Yeah,
Such great writing.
Good moment.
Rose, what do you have?
Okay, so my favorite scene, and I think the one that I make it like gives me the one that I'm gonna watch is actually the parade, because it's something that I would do. I would be that friend, the carefree and the singing. And before I was going to be a filmmaker, I wanted to be a musician. So I think when they put the music and you kind of repeat that scene and just seeing it and the power it has, it makes you feel like it's this scene, like when they change her and she comes out of the thing, that's the scene that you repeat and repeat and repeat. I think that's the scene that I would repeat and repeat. And also, well, no, you haven't seen the Stranger Things, but I think that.
Did you just kill Stranger Things, Rose? Damn it, Rose.
No, but I think that's the scene that it makes me feel happy. Like it gives you life, and it's one that you repeat. And it's
the iconic scene for sure in this film.
As that friend, I will be the one that gets up and just be singing and just carefree.
Yes, as many of my
my
audience has seen in some of our old work videos, where you get up and start doing the Hannah Montana. It's the hoedown, not the hoedown showdown. It's the
slow down in the hoedown. Yeah.
What's Rose doing on that float?
Yeah, exactly.
What is
Rose is on that float.
Gonna get caught.
Yeah. And you know what? I learned this from doing some of the research, which it's all kind of sneakily connected. But so obviously the first song he sings on the parade is Dankeschön. And then I don't know if you noticed this, but Rooney is humming Dankeschön when he's at Ferris's house for the first time. And then obviously, so Ferris ad-libbed that, or Matthew Broderick ad-libbed him singing in the shower Dankeschön, because he was rehearsing for that scene. And so, he ultimately pitched it to John Hughes, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. And it works so good because obviously there's a huge payoff at the end. But again,
Jennifer Grey sings it as she's walking down the stairs after meeting Charlie Sheen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So
Dankeschön is peppered through that whole movie.
Yeah. That's just great writing, and also just filmmaking, because like I said, some of that wasn't written. But it all connects. And
I recall Central Park and fall. How you tell your dress.
Yeah.
What a mess.
So I'm gonna tell you guys my feelings on what all you guys said. Each of you guys did such an excellent job. And if this was a communistic podcast, if this was a communistic podcast, I'd each give you a point. But that's not what we're here for. We're in a competition, and I do have to give someone a point. So Pete, initially I thought this was yours and this is easy. And then Dominique was like, oh yeah, like I had the same thing, and like, okay, there's no way she's coming. And then she added the other scene. Then she had the other scene. So I wasn't going to dismiss the point. I'm like, she Dominique Pete again. Like that was really good. And then Rose picked the one that I picked, which is the parade scene. The parade scene, even though you guys are right, that's maybe the more like deeper emotional. nothing gets me more of a rise and is more iconic than the parade scene. And even every single time I watch that, it just puts me in such a different mood, and it just has so much energy. And then when you learn how it was filmed over, they filmed during the actual parade, and then they actually went back and shot it, and they had a bunch of extras. And then even at the end, you see it. We're just, I mean, that's not acting. That's just actually people just doing what they're doing, you know? And that's just the power of that. First of all, power of the Beatles song, right? And just the power of the music in general, and just connecting with so many people and so many people coming together, and just it's just it kind of just encapsulates the whole movie in a way, because it's just like how one person can, you know, kind of bring everything together. And that's Ferris Bueller right there.
Yes, it is a powerful scene, that's for sure, and it does make you emotional in a sense.
You don't have to don't quote my emotions, Pete.
No. Good job, Rose.
So Rose, good job. We're gonna give you the point.
Well
Yeah,
Man,
but
I
honestly, Pete and Dominique did a great job too. That was a very good segment by everybody. Like I said,
I honestly thought I got that one, and then I really thought Dominique just like came in and just dominated me for sure. And then, like you said, then Rose just came right there. And
dude, it just everybody kept stealing it. That was a good segment, guys. That was
it was like literally like who's gonna like one up each other, and you guys just came through each time.
That's why I rotate the order too, because sometimes the order it has benefits, and it has it's interesting.
That's why it's always smart to have like extra, like do like more.
Yeah.
Like, oh shoot, they picked that one. I better pick this one too.
Yeah. Okay. So our next category is Ma the Meatloaf. And this is the funniest scene, or the scene that makes you feel good. Now, in this one, ideally, I just want to keep it funny because this is a comedy. So if you guys need to change it, let me know. But pick the funniest scene in this movie, because this is a pure comedy. I want funny on this one.
Okay.
Unless that really F's everybody up.
Did you guys have best feel good moments on this one? Ladies?
No, I picked it as comedy.
You picked comedy?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so we'll start with Rose first on this one.
Okay, so I think one of the funniest and best scenes, there's a lot, but the one that I chose is the one where Cameron is calling the principal, because it sets up the tone of the two friends. So you know where they're standing. So they both like that scene, it gets you into the story, and you know, like the dynamic, and it gets you like, that's where you start, and their arcs open. So I think it's the greatest and the best, and it makes you laugh a lot. And when but even when he hangs up and he's like, "You hurt my feelings. Do you have a brain?" And then they get into a fight, and then he's like persuasive, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna be back." So I think it sets the tone, and it has a lot of meaning, that one scene. So
that is a classic scene. It's something that, you know, I used to do that voice all the time, and
Bernie,
call me sir, god damn it. But then, you know, he revisits the voice again later on when he's the chief of police. And then I read in one of those like little facts,
the answer machine.
And he's on the answer machine at the mortuary.
He's a mortuary.
Back to you as soon as it's humanly possible. But then they were on Alan Ruck and Matthew Broderick were in some play or something together, and he actually, that was the impression of like his, I don't know, like his high school teacher or one of the counselors or something. I forget what it was exactly, but one of the more repeated sort of imitations, I think, growing up, for sure. Pardon my French. You're an asshole.
You're an asshole.
Oh, man.
No, it's so great. And even to add a Rose,
yeah, bros.
You know, I think you also really learn, like, I mean, you already knew that, you know, he's going to go pretty far in terms of like conning people, but you really see like the pure outsmarting, because this is when you really see one of his plans like fully in effect.
Yeah.
And, you know,
5 steps ahead.
Yeah. Rooney thinks he has him, and, listen, dipshit, you know, why don't you roll her old bones down here? And all that good stuff. And so,
But did you say you wanted to see a body?
yeah, but it's such a great scene because you really see kind of the cat and mouse between Rooney and
It's the best. And he's like, Grace. And
Yeah.
he's like screaming at her.
yeah,
She's just like
It's-
smelling that,
that part.
snipping the white out.
sniffing the wine out.
And there's the other scene where she's pulling pencils out of her hair, and she's like, oh, and then she, yeah,
I used to do that in school.
yeah.
So funny.
Apparently, John Hughes. So they wanted to have her have that 1960s haircut, and the hairstylist didn't know how to do it, so she did the hair herself. And then John Hughes, he saw her stick a pencil in her hair, and she's like, "How many pencils can you stick in your hair?" And they kept doing it until they couldn't. So four pencils fell out, so she had 3 in her hair actually. So it's just, again, crazy little things that make a great little film. But she's such a great character. These little. All right, Dominique, what do you have?
My favorite scene, or funniest scene to me, because I related to it then and I still relate to it now, is when Cameron gets in his car and he's like, I'll go.
Oh my
It's
God.
like, he's gonna keep calling me. And it's just like, I related to it then because it was like, I didn't want to go to school, and you're like, oh man, I gotta go. And now I relate to it every day that I get in my car to go to work, right? I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'll go. It's like, I have to psych myself out.
Yeah. Or should I get on this podcast?
Yeah.
I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets out of the car, you got the shot on the car by itself, and then you see him come back, and it's just the self-torture of Cameron, right? Just going
Jumping up and down in the back.
he's like throwing a tantrum. Yeah, exactly.
It's a great scene, and
so good.
that's another one of those scenes where it was repeated so many times growing up, not just with me, but with all of our family and friends. It was crazy.
Yeah, because I think that's how he yelled. I mean, we literally would yell at each other do all that.
Yeah, man, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that was my backup, just in case somebody said mine. But for me, okay, so it's very difficult to say what's the funniest because there's so many
Totally
amazingly funny things. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, every step of the way in this film, there's something really, really funny. But I picked the funniest moment that just sort of came out of left field, and that's the one right here behind me. The Charlie Sheen scene. He comes in and he's his character's like nothing that we've seen in this film so far. He kind of you almost take a step back, and it doesn't cause a slowing down of the movie, but it kind of does. It kind of slows down the movie for just a few moments, but he's so funny. And his delivery is so on point. And then her responses to him are just so, it's like, she's such a bitch. And he's such a drug addict, but he's so smart. Like Paul was saying at the beginning, like there's some real words of wisdom coming out of him. Like, he's not a total idiot. It was just so funny. And
I read that he stayed up 2 days straight to do, he filmed that to totally look the part.
Yeah, he looked like it.
I read that as well.
Sure did.
And I'm pretty sure he was not sober for those 48
I
hours.
was gonna say, I'm pretty sure he really.
We know Charlie Sheen, like we know Charlie Sheen.
Right.
He, most likely didn't do that El Natural.
Right.
But even his delivery about she's like, okay, when she finally opens up, if you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle. He's like, oh, you know him. Like, it's just so perfect. Like the way he just delivered that line.
And I love how when she walks away down the stairs, she's all of a sudden this giddy little schoolgirl. She's giggling, she's falling over herself.
Yeah,
she's just totally enamored by this guy. And the mom walks out, they're making out. It's so great.
But I read that one of the deleted scenes or the parts of the script that they were going to do and they ended up not doing was that he was supposed to be the son of the Vermont family that she was trying to sell the house to.
And Ferris's best friend in elementary school.
His best friend in elementary school. So he was supposed to be like this. It was really just involved. I'm glad they didn't do it because it wouldn't have worked in the
been too serious. Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting sort of backstory to this really, really just it was one of my more favorite scenes in the 80s. This one right here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a fantastic scene. And it for her character, I think that's her biggest scene, So well, good job. Those are all great scenes. So I actually have written down, I wrote down 2 scenes. I did write down Charlie Sheen's scene. because I do think that's ironic. I also wrote down Cameron as Mr. Peterson.
Those are my two.
But I would say if pure funny, I'm gonna go with Rose's scene because there's just more characters that are all performing at a high level. Like I said, Edie McClurg is so great in that scene, along with Rooney. And then again, Alan Ruck and Matthew Broderick. I mean, Matthew Broderick's probably the least funny in that scene, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's just a scene where all the supporting actors are hitting home runs. And like Pete mentioned, I mean, we would literally repeat these lines over and over and over and over again. And yeah, so I got to go. I'm gonna go with my gut on that one, and I'm gonna give Rose the point on that one.
All right.
Pete got it close for second. Unfortunately, Pete, you don't get points for second place. I believe Top Gun told us that. So right now, guys,
this is a reach of Jurassic Park. This is outrageous.
No, you're still in first. Pete's in first with 4, tied with Rose for 4. Dominique, unfortunately, you have 1. It's gonna be tough to come back. You're going the classic first to last. At least you'll get a high draft pick next year.
Yeah. I did a Ferris Bueller's Day in Chicago when I went to visit a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just trying to get a point here. Does that work? Went to the Cubs game, went to the museum, did the Willis Tower. No.
Well, I wore a Howe jersey one time.
Okay, so this next category I think is gonna be a little difficult, but we'll do our best here. And I'm just literally gonna go with my instincts on who I'll give the point to.
I don't know that I trust your instincts, sir.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust my instincts with your lonely point either, but Rose and Pete trust my instincts right now because they both got
they
points,
do.
So. All right, so this is line, please, and
this is easy.
Totally easy. We're all going to say the same thing.
We're going to say the same thing.
I'm curious. I probably have the only odd one, but I'll start. We'll start with you, Dominique. We'll start with you first. We'll do Dominique. We'll do Pete, and then Rose.
Okay. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Yeah.
And he says it twice. He says it in the beginning and at the end.
Yeah, and that's the iconic one.
Yeah,
the iconic one. I had to go with it. It's so great. It applies to so much.
That's a safe one. That's good.
Yeah.
Pete, what do you got?
Well, since that was obviously the fucking one that everyone was going to pick, and
before you change it though, Pete, let me warn you. If everybody picks the same one, then obviously nobody gets points. So there's also that advantage. So keep that in mind. So if you change and add another one, you run the risk of losing the point.
No, I get it.
Okay,
I get it.
I want to make sure I'm clear on the.
This sucks.
Have an honorable mention. You can take that one. Take another one.
We'll do honorable mentions after.
Yeah, no, I mean the best. I mean that's the point of the movie. That's the point of the movie is that if you don't stop. I mean that's the lesson that Ferris is trying to teach not only us as an audience, but that he's trying to teach not only Cameron but to his sister and to Sloane as well. You can't have a better line than that. That is the best quote. Other than dry that out, you can fertilize the lawn. Life moves pretty fast is the best quote.
Yeah. Okay, Rose, what do you got?
Okay, that was my first one, but I'm gonna go with my second one. And I think this quote is
wait, before you go, do you both have second ones?
I do.
Pete, do you have a second one?
I mean, yeah, but I mean it pales in comparison to.
Well, you guys all had this first one, so I'm going to say that's a wash. But so now we'll go kind of round 2 overtime. Now everybody give your second one, and I'll pick the second one.
I'm gonna go with my second one. And I'm gonna see if I can win. If I don't win, I don't care. But I think the quote that I choose is, "It's his fault he didn't lock the garage," because that is a metaphor, and that opens up the movie. He didn't lock it, so in the end, the father, in a way, is given the permission. So maybe he was the one who just has to get in and get the car. So in the end, a metaphor.
Wait. What was the quote again? Sorry, I missed it.
It's his fault he didn't lock the garage.
Oh, it's yeah.
Back to that, the movie, you can follow the movie. Like without the car, there's no movie because you cannot go pick up Sloan, and without the car, you cannot go to downtown, and without the car, you can the other guy, and without the car, he doesn't have a breakdown. So I think opening up the garage opens up the movie.
Interesting.
All right. I got
I'm gonna give you mine, and then I'll let Dominique and Pete give a second one. So mine was just to again be different. Well, I did more like the funniest one or the one I always say more than I chose like the most like important. But it's Rooney when he's like, tell you what, dipshit, if you don't like my policies, you can come on here and smooch my big old white butt.
Oh, white butt.
Pucker up, Buttercup. Like that line we would say like all the time. So that was mine. A little obscure. Okay, so Pete, go ahead and give your second one, and then
well, my second one was, it was a line that it was almost a throwaway line, but it was so clever because who would think about saying this right in the middle of the baseball game? But it was do you realize that if we were playing by the rules right now, we'd be in gym? And then they just start laughing because they knew that they should have been, in that spot at that moment, but they were like, fucking the system at that point. And I thought the timing of it was perfect, and the setting of it was amazing, and the delivery of it, and the way that they both looked at each other and just laughed like two best friends, like they just got away with murder or something.
Yeah, for sure. And again, kind of like it's a slight shift in Cameron's character too, right? Because
all of a sudden
it's a smile.
Fun.
Yeah, and it's a good kind of like what's it called? Not wow.
Exactly.
What's it called when you're not premonition? It's a good premonition of obviously the end of when he comes full circle, right? Okay, Dominique, what do you have?
I got Ben Stein. Anyone? And when he's Bueller, like that is classic. People have quoted that for years after. Anyone?
Yeah,
it's great.
The Holly Smoot tariff acts.
Yeah.
Dominique, I'm gonna go with that one. That one.
Anyone?
That is, you're right. That's probably the most second popular favorite one.
Totally.
And again, not overthinking it. That's definitely the second most iconic line on that one. Look at you clawing your way back into this.
Yay!
Both Pete and Rose, you guys had good explanations. That was tough. Dominique kind of came and snatched that one from you guys. Now is a director's chair. Director's chair. Ultimately, what are some things that you would change that can be easily done within the realm of possibility?
Yeah, this was tough.
Yeah, this one is tough. I don't know if I'm gonna give points for this one, but if somebody wows me, maybe I'll give a point. But
I don't think right now is the first time that I have seen it, so I don't have an answer because it was pure entertainment for me.
I don't have an answer, and I've seen this 8,000 times. So
I don't really have an answer myself either. I'm trying to think, and I can't.
I have an attempt at an answer, and you guys can tell me I'm crazy or argue with me a little bit. I mean, but if there was one thing that I struggled with always, was that the entirety of the movie was this sort of combative relationship between Ferris and his sister and Jeannie throughout the whole movie. And then like at the very end, it was even when they almost when she almost hit him with the car and there's that eye confrontation, there's still competition there, almost like I'm gonna get home first to bust it. But then it was like at the very end, there was such a switch all of a sudden. I wish they would have maybe expanded it a little more and showed more of a transition from I'm going to get into trouble to now all of a sudden I'm going to save your ass. Like
that was actually going to be the question I wanted to actually pose to you guys, because that was actually my main issue with the film. I didn't understand what converted her so much, and the only thing I could think of was like her disdain for Rooney, because like even so I didn't get this when I was younger, but she's like, I've got my father's gun and a scorching case of herpes. Like I don't think I ever understood that what she said then, because
I picked up on that for the first time this time watching it.
Well, if the intruder planned on raping her, then he's in for a very unpleasant.
No, totally. But I'm saying like when I watched this for the first, 15 years, I don't think I ever understood what herpes were, so that one kind of slid on the radar. But that's the only thing I can think of where maybe it's like I have to choose between Rooney and my brother. But I'm kind of with you, Pete.
It happens too fast.
It happens too fast, and I think there need to be one other thing somehow that just somehow is like, because if she didn't do the glare thing and Charlie Sheen had changed her, then it would make sense. But it's like, but then she went back to
Still kept,
and it almost throws you off.
Was it because the mom all of a sudden said that she's not going to be able to buy Ferris a car, and so then all of a sudden the sister's like, well, he's not going to get what he wants, and so I kind of win. It just
but they would need to acknowledge that, and they didn't.
Exactly. I mean, that's the one thing I would have fixed.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's pretty good, Pete. I might give you the point here.
Well, I'm the only one with an answer. I should get a point.
Well,
I think too. I'm letting other people talk first before I say officially, but
just piggybacking off that point, I think
she's about to steal your point, Pete.
Come on, give me a fucking break.
That she, even though she was like, giddy schoolgirl with Charlie Sheen, her mother is still coming down on her and is like pissed at her for the cop thing. The cops didn't believe her. She's still like getting micromanaged and, totally where it's like Ferris gets away with everything. And they're like, she's yelling at her in the car and she's, still reprimanding her. And then she looks over and she sees her brother and it's like, F you, man. You know what I mean? And then, it just kind of comes back around because I think of her, hate for Rooney.
It's just slightly, it's still inconsistent. And I think, like I said,
the thing is that even if it's inconsistent, it is kind of reality also, because just one day and one conversation doesn't change you. So in that moment, you see just like the first step, and then you see that it's gonna be a new relationship. But in the end, it was not a movie that you could put all of that. So you just see trying to battle between those two parts of herself, because she met Charlie Sheen in that one part, and one conversation was going to change her heart, because her heart was set up into something. So I think just looking and deciding, that's why I don't see it in a bad way, because I think it's kind of the human heart. She's like battling if she goes or not, and thinking about what she went through, like with Charlie Sheen. So in that moment, she's like, okay, I'm gonna help my brother. We don't know if
and they're siblings, and we all
that.
have. You guys are siblings. You know how like you have a love-hate relationship with your sibling. Like one minute you adore them, and the next minute you want to punch them in the face. And I think
in that sequence of events, though, Ferris, Rooney's foot goes down. He's caught. He's screwed. He's about to get hell, and he gets saved all of a sudden by his sister, and that's why it doesn't really play out as well. I mean, Ferris should have been screwed right there.
Yeah,
sure, but it's still her brother, and I think like even though you can hate your siblings all day long, but at the end of the day, that's you're going to always stand up for your family, right?
There either need to be another short exchange between them two.
Easy way out. It's an easy way out to just say, okay, let's just have the sister save him at the end.
Yeah,
there's no evidence all the way through the movie that suggests that she's going to ultimately save him in the end.
Yeah, but Rooney scared the S out of her when he was in the house, and then when she saw the wallet and realized it was him, it was like, okay, I'm going to get him. I think her want to take Rooney down was larger than her want at that point with her brother.
And also, it's like,
yeah, maybe.
But you cannot punch my brother. Kind of that statement.
Yeah, like I can be a bitch to my brother, but you're not.
But I think that the Rooney wallet thing, like, hey, by the way, fuck you, I have this now, and you better keep your mouth shut. I think that was just an icing on top of the cake. I still hold to my original point and think that
I agree.
Because that's Dominique. That's an excellent point. It really is about her wanting to actually screw Rooney in the end, because she had that evidence the whole time in her back pocket. She was just waiting to use it. She's waiting to pull it out. I get it. But still, it just doesn't explain why all of a sudden she would give a shit about her brother and saving him.
It still needed something. I agree with Pete. It still needed something. Like everybody's rationale makes sense, but there still needed something very small to just tie it in all together to be like, okay, it makes sense. And it doesn't have to be much. Just need to be something, because it just the rationale doesn't fully make sense. And because again, Pete was right. The scene at the car in the glean, right? That's that's what kind of kills all of our arguments, because it's like, again, it's easy to say Charlie Sheen changed her, or just going through the whole process changed her, the mom changed her, but the glean throws it all off, and then it becomes a competition again. And sure, maybe it is, I hate Rooney more than I hate my brother, but I think it just happens too quick. So I think I just need something small, and maybe they did do something that just didn't work in the final thing. We don't know, but I think
so. But being a female and like running into an intruder and being that afraid, and then realizing it's your effing principal that broke into your house. That's what I'm saying. In that moment, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna take this guy down, and it's it's my brother. Whatever, he's always gonna do what he does. I don't know. Like that's where I think that took a turn.
The only thing I can think of too is, remember when she went in to go see Rooney, and he's on personal errands. So maybe when she found the wallet or whatever, it's this personal realization too, is like,
that he was.
Oh, remember when I was trying to catch my brother? You were out actually trying to catch him, and you were intruding in my house. You don't intrude in my house. But again, I think it needed something. I think there could have been a small scene at the end that kind of could have like
brought it together.
Yeah, just kind of brought it together. And I think it needed that, because again, it was just too haphazardly put together, I think. But
I didn't need it. I think it was good, but it's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never really thought about it till now. So I is the film fine without it? Sure, but like I said, just again, kind of nitpicking, all that. All right, Pete, you'll get your point.
Son,
I know that's all you wanted, Pete.
Just wanted a point.
And so I'm gonna go over a couple smaller notes after, but we'll do our last list, and then I'll do a couple small tidbits that I learned about this film that I found super interesting. So Pete's up 5, Rose 4, Dominique 2. So this list is everything.
Yeah, I'm not gonna win.
Guys, this is top 5 John Hughes films. And so this is anything he wrote or direct. We didn't just leave it to just direct. So anything he wrote or direct, because it opens up a few more films that are super classic. So with that, we'll start with Dominique. Then we'll go Rose, then end with Pete.
All right. My number 5 is National Lampoon's Vacation. That's one of my favorite John Hughes movies, obviously. So funny. Characters are so great. Cousin Eddie, the aunt that they put on the top of the roof of the car.
And Christmas Vacation is actually my favorite out of all of them. But either of them.
I love the first one when he's yelling, Russ, this kid's sitting right next to him, just little things like that. I love when he's shaking the sandwich, looking at Christy Brinkley and the dog beat on the
sandwiches. Such a different film. We hadn't really seen a film like that.
No, it's so great. And then also just the time period of them taking a road trip, no cell phones, no GPS, just the simplicity of it, family, Wally World. Number 4 is
to get around.
Number 4 is Home Alone. Again, a movie I remember seeing vividly at the theater in the mall nearby where we live. I was 8 years old, and that was
what theater was that one?
It was upstairs. It was
I know that. Mall. What was it called though?
I can't remember what it was called. I just remember there was a movie theater.
Extra credit point, Dominique. If you can
Wasn't
name
it an Edwards? Wasn't it an Edwards?
I don't think it was an Edwards. I don't think it was an Edwards. Shit, Chris would know. I can't think of it. I don't remember the name of it, but it was at the mall. I do know that. But anyway, that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I love the soundtrack by John Williams. It's just a classic Christmas movie that lives on. My little boy loves it, so it's obviously has the staying power even until now. Number 3 is Breakfast Club. It's not my favorite John Hughes movies, but it's definitely obviously in the top 3. Number 2, 16 Candles. I absolutely adore that movie just as much, with all the characters in that, Long Duck Dong, Jake Ryan.
What's happening? Stuff.
I made Chris, when I turned 40, recreate the birthday scene when we're sitting on the table with the birthday cake in the middle. That's how much I love 16 Candles. Nice. And then number 1, Why We're All Here, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's the one that I have watched over and over and over and quote and know.
Good job finding someone putting the right movie number 1.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Ferris Bueller, #1 John Hughes movie for sure, hands down.
Awesome. All right. Rose, you're up.
Okay, so for in number 5 comes Miracle on 34th Street. I love that movie. I just love it, and it brings me back to Christmas. And I think I love the actress. I don't remember her name, but I love it. So don't laugh. And then
It's a remake, you understand, right? Like he didn't really do anything on that one.
he directed it, no?
He did.
Yeah, I think he did, but all right.
Okay, then put it as an honorable mention. I have 6.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you a redo here. This is
Okay. In number 5 comes Good Morning Vietnam. Good morning, Vietnam.
Wait, he did Good Morning Vietnam?
You do that one?
I don't think he
Yeah.
did that.
No.
Really?
Hold on.
Then in 4, it comes the
We'll go back.
I
I
just-
did see your other one in there. I did see
He produced it? Let me see.
he did the screenplay for Miracle on 34th Street.
Let's see.
I'm not seeing the other one though.
okay. Then I got confused. Okay,
He's not in Good Morning Vietnam.
He used
And
additional too?
in 4
Okay.
comes I just know how to say it in Spanish. 101 Dálmatas. The dog one.
Beethoven?
No, Dalmatas.
Oh, Dalmatians.
Dalmatians.
101 Dalmatians.
101 Dalmatians.
Okay.
Wait, he did like a live action?
He produced it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Good.
I love that movie. That's my childhood. Then in 2nd comes Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay.
It comes The Breakfast Club, and my first one has to be Home Alone because
Nice.
I grew up with those movies. So that's more of my epoch.
All right. I mean, very interesting list for John Hughes. I mean,
Beautiful.
all right, Pete.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know how to top that one. Number 5, I went Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It was a hilarious movie.
those aren't pillows.
Those aren't pillows. I mean, that line alone put it at number 5. But Steve Martin in that movie. I mean, I don't care what's on the script, but only he could have performed
So good.
I want the fucking keys right
Yeah.
fucking now. Like that whole scene was. It was.
I
amazing.
just saw that movie the first time like a year ago.
What?
Yeah, because it was rated R, so I wasn't able to see it when I was younger. And then
the secretary, wasn't she the?
yeah, she's in it too. She's the
she's a woman.
Mhm.
She's
she's
like,
the ticket agent.
Edie McClurg is her name.
Yeah, you
thank
did.
you. All right, so that's number 5. Number 4, I just put the National Lampoon's Vacation, even though I agree the first one is the best. I mean, we hadn't really seen a family sort of disaster ever take place on a road trip. And I always thought growing up, like whenever we did a lot of road trips growing up, and there was always something about it that made it kind of shitty, but it was never like that. Like never an absolute
Nobody
disaster.
ever died. And you never
There's
had
that
to
one.
put them
There's
in
that
the
one
car?
trip that's pretty disaster.
The one time when our grandma died and we had to strap her to the top of the
Right.
car.
Okay.
But other than that, I never saw Christy Brinkley on any of these road trips, never
Right.
saw her naked in a pool. So, pure fiction, that movie. But it was amazing. Number 4. Number 3 for me is The Breakfast Club. Usually that movie is a lot higher in terms of whenever I think of that movie, because it was really important to me. It was a different kind of comedy that was so dramatic and so emotional and so powerful. It had every single emotion in that film, and it was beautifully written and beautifully acted, and I thought it was incredible. I had to put Home Alone number 2 because I mean that movie was just like a game changer, like in terms of taking a childlike movie and elevating it to something that adults and everyone else can really love and appreciate and laugh about. And it's one of the more quoted movies ever.
Buzz, your girlfriend.
Yeah.
James
Woof.
is filthy animal.
Woof.
You can't get better. I mean, I was going to go Breakfast Club too, but I mean, Home Alone just so passes that in
So
terms
good.
of
Yeah.
importance.
Pete, I'm glad you used some logic there.
cinema.
That's a good decision you made there.
Number one, Ferris Bueller's, and it's just a very close number one to Home Alone, because Home Alone is so good.
And 34th of Miracle Street, the remake.
And I mean, who can forget about that classic
The remake, not even the original, the remake
movie?
that no one's seen.
Yeah, obviously the best John Hughes movie of all time is Ferris Bueller's. Hands down.
Okay. Pete, we had similar lists. My number 5, again, a little disappointed nobody had it on their list. But Uncle Buck. I mean, I absolutely love Uncle Buck. This is the movie that made Macaulay Culkin and showed that this guy can possibly carry a film. And, you know, just John Candy.
Was it before My Girl, Uncle Buck?
Yeah.
Was
My
it?
Girl was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like, you know, like I was a little too young for John Candy, and this is the first film where I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this guy is funny. Like I really like John Candy, you know?
I love when he's interviewing. He was like, what do you do? Where do you live? Are you married?
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
have kids?
It's such a good movie. Rose, if you
He
haven't
was
seen
so
Uncle Buck, you gotta
awkward.
check out
He was-
Uncle Buck.
He was so awkward to the point where he was very comedic, and it was a while before somebody sort of took over that.
And he's got a good
awkward
character arc in that
yeah.
too. I mean, it's
Oh,
again,
yeah.
it's got that John Hughes, you know, comedy plus, you know, a heart and emotion. That's excellent.
I thought you were
number
going to go Dutch.
Yeah. Number 4, like you guys mentioned, Breakfast Club. I mean, Breakfast Club is obviously great, but it, you know, the other 3 films are just have so much staying power. Number 3, I put Christmas Vacation because that's actually my favorite vacation film. I literally watch that again every year, every
I watch it
Christmas.
too. Yeah.
You know, Randy Quaid in this movie is just so excellent. This one just
So
has better
gross.
supporting characters. But this movie is just so awesome. And then 2, Home Alone, number 1, Ferris Bueller. Again, I just don't think there's much dispute there. I mean, if someone put Home Alone first and Ferris Bueller second, I could see that just because Home Alone's
Yeah.
probably played
Tough to
more.
argue that. Yeah.
Home Alone's probably played more.
Breakfast,
It appeals to a larger audience for sure.
Home Alone. I have a very similar list.
You were close, Rose. You started off, you stumbled a little bit out the gate, and then you finished strong.
I have an honorable mention. Can I mention it?
Big
go
George.
for it.
The Great Outdoors. John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. They're
that's
just
great.
the 2 of them together. You know, just the different characters. It's so great.
Yeah,
I love
for
that.
sure.
Let's not dismiss career opportunities with.
Oh, I know. I
with
saw,
what's
I
her
saw
name?
that.
What's
Yeah,
her
I had
with
no
name?
idea that was a
Jennifer
John Hughes
Connelly.
film.
Yeah.
I was
She
actually
finally-
surprised to see that. I was like, oh wait, I didn't know.
I
he did
became
that.
a woman in that movie, and I remember loving it so much.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, like,
White
I mean, like I said,
I've
weird
never
science,
appreciated more.
weird science.
Oh,
was-
Weird Science. I love
we
that.
didn't
So
put-
that's my husband's favorite.
Yeah.
Weird Science is such a sneaky, funny movie.
Yeah. Chester.
So again,
Very
John
draws
Hughes,
on your head.
Yeah.
John Hughes is great.
And then Robert Downey Jr. is the background guy.
Oh
He's
God,
good in that.
that's a sneaky great movie.
Mhm.
So again, I want to give a couple more. Oh, so for this one, good job, Pete. We literally pretty much had the same exact list. And your 16 Candles is, I thought, too high, Dominique.
What are you talking about? Long Duck Dong? The Donger needs food? No.
It's good. I
Yankee
think
my wanky?
I have no problem with it being on the list. Number 2 is a little high. Number 2 is a little high.
He's got to get her panties.
No, I
Or she's
get
gotta
it.
get-
I get it. You're not gonna. It's not.
It's
16 Candles is not better than Home Alone or Ferris Bueller. Like it's just not. Like there's no way
I
you're gonna
didn't-
But it's 34
So congratulations, Pete. You win.
yes.
I'll go ahead and think of what you're gonna recommend. We'll do that at the very last thing. But I'm gonna
Goonies.
think about a movie we can do as this group.
Goonies.
Pete, what do you want to choose?
Let's stick with our original gut here. We all seem to confer on the Goonies. Let's do the Goonies. Goonies is
Yeah,
great.
let's do it.
Awesome. I think that's a excellent film. Well, we should be able to get some good lists too on this one.
Classic childhood movie that also
Totally.
has like a ton of swearing in it, which we weren't allowed to listen to, but for some reason our parents were cool with that.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
I mean, we watched a lot of the edited versions too.
Not with Goonies. Goonies, we saw the original.
Okay, so really quickly, guys, let me just throw us a couple things that I had learned. The idea of a sequel had gone around for years with Ferris in college or Job Somewhere, but that idea has dropped. Matthew Broderick felt the film didn't need a sequel, and this film was about a specific time and place that we all like to revisit and didn't need updating. I kind of agree with that. I think a sequel would have been really, really tough to do. Even like they do one now, like
100%. However, they did the series, which was god awful, and that it didn't ruin the legacy at
Thought
all.
about that.
But yeah, the series was real bad.
Wasn't
Yeah.
that on Fox or something?
Wasn't Jennifer Aniston? Jennifer Aniston was in it, right? Wasn't she Sloane?
I don't know.
Or is she Parker Lewis Can't Lose?
Might have
I
been
think
Parker
Parker
Lewis.
Lewis. Weren't they like back to back on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Parker
I
Lewis
think
Can't
so.
Lose wasn't bad, but
Parker Lewis wasn't bad. It was just a clear ripoff of
yeah, exactly.
Ferris Bueller.
John Hughes told Ben Stein, who's the economics teacher, he had a degree in economics. So the actual lecture is Ben Stein's actual, like, him coming up with it. It
hilarious.
wasn't scripted at all. The shot of Ferris playing the clarinet was done on the spot. Someone found the instrument was part of the set, and Matthew Broderick said he could play it,
Wow,
which he
lesson.
couldn't. And then he ad-libbed the line like, "I've had zero
Never
lessons.
had one lesson.
Never had one lesson."
Exactly.
But so yeah, that was all ad-lib, which is awesome. The Ferrari, apparently that wasn't an actual real Ferrari. They it was too expensive to rent one, so they made 3 replicas using an MG chassis. I don't know what MG means, not a car person, but so they each had fiberglass bodies. So apparently even when the car went over the thing, the fiberglass ripped. So they put a bunch of branches on top of the car to cover up the car being like torn in half. I already mentioned that one. Oh, this is kind of a lesson. I think Rose, you'll this is good for you. After working together on Weird Science, John Hughes offered Bill Paxton the role of the garage attendant. Paxton turned it down because he felt the role was too small. He admitted that he regretted turning down because Hughes never offered him a role again. Lesson learned, guys. So if someone offers you a
Wow.
job that's kind of a big deal, you take it. So it's just
Yeah.
I love Bill Paxton.
remember that one. Oh yeah, Pete already mentioned this one. But in the Inside Story 86 documentary, Charlie Sheen's character name is actually Garth Volbeck. There's going to be a whole backstory to his character and family. It was revealed the Volbecks are the family to whom Ferris's mom was shown the house to in her job as a realtor. And if you look closely, the tow truck that tows Rooney's car is from Volbeck's wrecking service. Also, a deleted backstory shows that Ferris and Garth were friends in the 8th grade. Garth's family pretty messed up, and Ferris tried to help him to be his friend, but Garth eventually dropped out of high school, wound up in the police station next to Jeannie. That's why Ferris is so intent on giving Cameron a good time. He blames himself for not helping Garth enough when he could. Yeah, way too serious of a that would have just killed the tone. I mean, it's good writing. It's like really good writing, but just
Yeah, but it would have messed up the pacing. for sure.
would have messed the pacing.
much.
Yeah, would have been way more serious.
Well, and the one thing that we haven't talked about, but the most iconic thing that kind of came out of this movie was, oh yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure.
like that song. That song exploded right after this movie.
Oh,
And it was a re-release. It wasn't even. It had been out
Yeah.
for a while and did nothing.
Oh,
and then
fuck.
you know the song that I love that song when they're driving into the city, big city
City.
now.
Yeah.
I always thought it said big city downtown, and it's saying big. What is it saying? It's saying
it's beat.
beat. No, it's
I thought
beat.
Like beep your
No,
car
it's
horn.
beat. BEAT. Beat city now is what they're saying.
Oh,
I don't know about that. I'm gonna have to look that up. I think it's
Listen,
beat.
I can't hear anymore, and I watch things with subtitles now.
yeah.
And it said beat city now.
Although sometimes the subtitles aren't right though. So
Yeah, but then he's like beep
one-
beep.
somebody
beep,
could look up
beep.
the actual lyrics. Yeah, someone Google the actual lyrics. Let me keep going. I got just a couple more. The hand that presses the speaker button on Cameron's phone, that's actually John Hughes. He didn't like how it was done, so after everybody left, he ended up shooting it himself. I thought that was kind of interesting. So whenever you see him hitting the
Oh, the artist is the Flower Pot Men.
Okay.
Because they're huge. Beat City.
Beat city now.
the painting that Cameron admires is called Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte by George Seurat. It's still on display at the Art Institute of Chicago. It's the inspiration for the long-running Broadway musical Sunday in the Park with George. We are, just with that. The parade sequence was filmed during Von Steuben Day, which is it's the largest kind of German-American festival in Chicago or in the United States. It's in Chicago only. Philadelphia has a smaller one, but yeah. And they ended up shooting it over 2 weekends. They shot it originally. A lot of the long shots are shot during the original parade because there's more people. And then they did a lot of like the closer shots the second weekend, and they had basically a huge casting call, and like 10,000 people showed up to be in this film apparently. So I thought that was kind of cool. I already mentioned that. The number 9 was chosen for the number of Ferris's absences because it sounded harsh when spoken by Rooney.
9 times.
I thought this was kind of cool on a character thing. Cameron's wearing a Detroit Red Wings hockey jersey. It's an action insight to his character. When the film was made, the Red Wings were the worst in the league with an embarrassing win record. Cameron wore a Red Wings jersey to show, say that fast, Red Wings. Red Wings jersey to show that
Cameron wore a Red Wings jersey.
Yeah. Not only is the character a lovable loser down on his luck, but even the team he supports are losers. And they're also saying like his dad is a Blackhawks fan, and he'd also wear it to kind of spite his dad. So kind of I don't know how accurate it is, but it makes sense.
This is Webber Walters reporting.
Oh, this was kind of a funny one. This is the last one. Despite all the scenes shot at the house, the fact that the Bueller house has a doggy door and the family dog is heard and seen periodically throughout the movie in and out of the house, at no time does the Bueller family interact with their dog. Jeannie does throw Rooney's wallet in the mud where the dog attacks, but she actually doesn't get near the dog. No one in the family acknowledges the dog, and Ferris never closed the doggy door, allowing a large angry Rottweiler to run around the neighborhood at the end of the movie. So that was nice. So awesome. Good. Well, guys, that wraps it up here for the episode of Ferris Bueller. Thank you, everybody. Again, congrats on Pete. So we'll be choosing Goonies.
Real quick, by the way, so the one thing that I'd never seen before, not only just the talking to the camera thing, but then you go through the whole credits and all of a sudden Ferris pops up at the end. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're still here?
Oh yeah, you never seen that
before?
before?
Over. Go home." No. Like I've never seen that in a movie before. I always saw it.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen an actor come back at the end of the movie and be like, "No, just the movie."
Oh yeah, that was definitely the first time. Yeah.
Go, like, just leave. Like,
well, even the bus scene at the end, that was supposed to be in the movie. That was supposed to be, I think before Jeannie goes to jail or something like that. And then that's why there's like, I always wonder that too. Like, why are there's the bus still going at like 6 o'clock? You know?
Yeah.
that explains why it was out of sequence.
Yeah, it's so gross. Like, just to imagine that it was like all soft and warm from being in that girl's pocket, and she's like sniffing and like, ugh.
Yeah.
So gross.
Yeah. So again, everybody make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Comment below on these lists. Again, man, I challenge everybody to do these lists. 80s comedies, John Hughes films, and best high school films of all time. And some other podcasts on the list. Back to the Future will be coming up. There's another one we haven't figured out yet. And then Paws of Fury, I believe, is right around when this comes out. Pete's film, that's my brother helped produce that. And
July 15th.
Thor, our Thor review will have already came out, so make sure you check that as well. And make sure you guys subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Dominique. Thanks, of course, Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And that's a cut. Thanks, guys.